Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. Apparently we're a minute late. It's 1 minute past 7. Unbelievably. Terribly sorry. Apologies for coming to you a minute late. But here we are. It is Thursday the 19th of February. I don't know why that date seems significant, but I think it is. Maybe I have to pay somebody something on the 19th. I don't know what it is. Anyway, here we are. We've got loads to talk about. Lots and lots of different stories on the front pages. Nobody can agree what the big story of the day is. So I'll probably just have to tell you exactly what the story of the day is. Basically, we have got a whole bunch of great guests, starting off with William Yarwood, who's here from the Taxpayers Alliance. William Yarwood, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
We haven't seen you for about a month. What have you been doing? Where have you been?
You've had Elliot on, mate. We're alternating on.
Although the first time he was supposed to be on, he forgot to turn up. So I mean, he blotted his coffee book. So never mind the bloody Taxpayers Alliance.
I swear you got a nice bottle of wine out of that.
I did get a nice bottle of wine, which has now been consumed.
Oh,
I'm sorry to say. But yeah, very good to see you. Lots of different stories. I mean, the Chagos story, I suppose, is the biggest story of the day, isn't it? At the moment, Donald Trump last night pulling his support for the Chagos deal. Watching Caroline Levitt, the brilliant and fantastic White House press spokeswoman, who said, never mind what the official line is from the White House, if Donald Trump puts out on Truth Social, don't give away the Chagos Islands, that's our policy, right? And I love that. I love the fact that, Donald Trump is now dictating, government policy from the United States of America on his Truth social media account.
On the thing that he has all to himself, right, basically.
Yes.
But honestly, I'm actually a little bit annoyed with President Trump on this one.
Are you?
Because he originally said, we'll support it, and then went back on that support, and then reinforced his support for it because that was part of Keir Starmer's trip to the States.
Right.
And now he's reneged on it again, but it's actually too late to stop the deal at this point now. And actually, the point to stop it was when he first denied. I hope not. But at the moment, it looks like that as Downing Street's still pushing through with it, and everything's been signed and sorted, and that means this is £35 billion down the drain, or as we said at the Taxpayers Alliance, because of course we have to we can't assume that inflation is going to stay at the same rate. It's going to be upwards possibly of £47 billion down the drain for British taxpayers. It's being spent on something that we just didn't need to do in the
But we didn't need to do
place.
it. And I mean, it's Piece of the Sun, page 17, and we keep hearing this morning from Misli Mandarin, who is the sort of the self-styled, First Minister of the Chagos Islands. He's gone back there, supposedly against the rule of law. He's occupying a space on the beach somewhere, and he's saying, "I'm not leaving," and they'll literally have to drag my corpse off the beach. I'm not. And the British government are threatening to lock him up for 3 years for illegally invading the Chagos Islands.
That's ironic.
Which is kind of ironic, given that there's 500 guys currently waiting in a queue at Dover to be given a free blanket and some pizza, who have come in for nothing and who are going to be put up at the Holiday Inn at our expense.
Yeah, it's funny that they can defend the borders of the Chagos Islands, but they can't defend the borders at Dover. It really makes you think about the priorities of this British government.
Doesn't it?
But it says something about the Chagos deal more broadly, actually. Like, it just shows you how obsessed Keir Starmer and this Labour government have been to do with this.
Right.
I think it reveals something as well. It's like, you look at all the things that Keir Starmer has U-turned on, which at this point is basically everything, everything, right?
Yeah.
Except for, actually, two things. The Chagos Island deal and the tax on private schools, because both of them are part of Starmer's ideological milieu, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's I want to be respected on the world stage, and I want to be, even though I don't understand who's going to respect him on the world stage for us, but they say that, don't they?
Right.
And we're upholding international deals and abiding by international law, and how smart and clever I am as a lawyer. And then the private schools thing, well, that's just a nasty, avaricious policy, basically, which isn't going to actually put more money into comprehensive schools. It's just going to tax private schools into the ground, forcing them to go into comprehensive schools, making the comprehensive schools even more overcrowded than they already are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all ideological. But yeah, if Trump really wants to do this, if he's really made his mind up, and we don't know with Trump, he might change his mind tomorrow, but nevertheless, he actually needs to step in now and explicitly say to Keir Starmer, sorry mate, you're not doing this, because obviously I need to use it in future, perhaps in possible attacks against Iran. And that's a national security point, but I don't know if that will happen. I mean, Keir Starmer, like I said, seems obsessed with this and will do anything to see it through.
Well, we found out, haven't we not? I mean, I'm just looking for something that John Rentoul posted yesterday from his his archive of things that Lord Hermer has said previously about not just the Chagos Islands, but about the whole idea of sort of national sovereignty and how, I don't know if you saw it yesterday, and how basically there is really no such thing, and what we should be doing is working towards a kind of international passport. You know, who needs nationality is more or less what Lord Herman was saying. Well, I'm just trying to find it, but
that's crazy though, because that's hilariously that's almost like what people think. Like conspiracy theorists think about globalism and globalists, and yet he's just said it out loud, saying, "I don't believe in nation states.
No, he doesn't.
I don't believe in sovereignty."
And they don't. And this is the thing, and this is what it's all driven by. And so it's not even about reparations for the people in Chagos. It's not about giving people back the land that they believe that they had stolen from them. It's about a kind of internationalism that they think we should actually be practicing. And that, you know, you don't need a border, you don't need a country, you know, which is all very well. But unfortunately, they've made these poor people move from the beauty of a sort of an island nation in the Indian Ocean to somewhere near Crawley, right? And you kind of go, I don't fancy that much. I think I'd rather be in the Indian Ocean.
Didn't ask the British Chagosians about it once. Like they just didn't ask. They just don't care about it because this is not about the British Chagosians. This is not also about British taxpayers because, of course, we're not getting any money for this. We're actually paying for it, someone else, to Mauritius, to take it away. And Mauritius are going to use that money, Mike, to abolish income tax and their national debt. All the while our tax burden increases and our national debt increases. So there's a fairness element there. But yeah, I think that's actually hit the nail on the head. It shows that this deal is about one thing and one thing only, and it's an ideological commitment, not just to international law, but the concept of internationalism, despite the fact that this internationalism, in inverted quotation marks, has no benefit to either Chagosians or the British people, or even the international stage when it comes to security and America, right? No benefit at all, apart from maybe to China.
Yeah. It is absolutely and utterly ridiculous the way that this is kind of playing out. And as you say, it's costing us an absolute bleeding fortune. And every U-turn that the government get involved in ends up somehow costing more billions and billions of pounds. I don't know quite why that is, but every single thing they do seems to end up costing us more money. You know, it costs us more money to go that way, and then we reversed it. It's even more money to go the other way. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, new black holes. You know, which are going to come back and say she's got a so-and-so the size black hole, but actually this time round it's going to be, this time around it's going to be all her own fault. Each time it has actually been her own fault in the first place.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, this is just going to be another excuse to hike taxes at a future budget.
Yeah, exactly right. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer was out and about yesterday saying that, the U-turn on elections for May was nothing to do with him, and it was all the fault of local councils. Apparently it was the local councils who demanded that they not have elections, and he had no control over it. I mean, is he completely deluded, this guy?
Also, that's just objectively not true. That was an imposition from the MHCLG. I mean, the reason they're going ahead now is because Steve Reid has withdrawn his consent, meaning the government had to give their consent in the first place, meaning it was from Westminster to begin with.
Steve Reid's gone very quiet, hasn't he? Because everybody keeps calling for his resignation, and he's basically dug himself into a hole somewhere in Whitehall. He's not coming out.
Well, we wrote a letter to Steve Reid on Monday because obviously delayed elections were still going ahead, and we were running this no taxation without representation campaign, which I believe Elliot mentioned to you the other week, and we were getting an insane response on the doorstep and on the grassroots. And actually, we were running a right to your council legal tool, and there were some tools, especially in places like Norfolk and Suffolk. Like 300 or 400 people have written to their council leader. You can imagine the council leader sitting there like, bloody hell, everyone's writing to me, crikey. And we said to Steve Reid, said, look, okay, you cancelled these elections, but you can't allow these 27 out of the 29 councils to be raising council tax.
No.
And yet, I mean, luckily they've reneged on it now, but nevertheless, this is to do with Labour and is to do with Steve Reid. And also, I mean, no one's going to believe Keir Starmer when he says it's not my fault anyway, but the fact that he's saying that, he still thinks that's somehow a defence, but everyone knows it's his fault and everyone knows it's his Labour government's fault. And he's had to delay on this because he knew he was going to lose against the Reform High Court judgment. He knew he was going to lose.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's do a couple of super chats which are coming in thick and fast as we speak. Easy Boy says, morning Mike, Pooch, Charlotte and guests. Looking forward to another great show. Best morning television. Of course it is the best morning television. Who needs coffee when you have Mike? Lots of love, says Sydney Smith. She's in America. Somebody's actually suggested to us, Pooch, this morning, we should have a map. There it is. Get a map and put markers on it to show your overseas listeners, because we know we've got people in Cambodia, we've got people in Vietnam, We've probably got people in the Chagos Islands this morning.
Yeah, you probably have.
I would imagine, because we're hoping to go over live there later on.
This kind of internationalism is fine, Mike, isn't it?
This kind of internationalism is fine, because we still believe in borders.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but you can cross them by means of electronic devices. It's okay. You can have an iPhone in Cambodia. It doesn't mean that you don't have a nation state.
No free hotel for you, though.
No free hotel. Unless you come here, in which case we'll give you one. That's not a problem. Also, a couple of other stories going on around about... Donald's in touch. He says the sound mix is not right. What's wrong with him? Is there a problem?
He doesn't like the new mic.
He doesn't like the new mic. Okay. Well, we're trying to figure it out. We'll see what we can do. It's not a perfect world, I'm afraid.
No.
So let's talk about Andrew, shall we? Front page of the Times says this: the Eighth Force has now joined the Epstein files investigation. It would now appear that the entire police force of Britain is only involved in one story, and that's looking into what Andrew was up to for the last 25 years in the shagging department. Basically, apparently everyone whoever came to see him is now being investigated by the Epstein police. And according to this piece, police investigation has expanded into an 8-force inquiry involving the National Crime Agency after more allegations over the conduct of his protection officers. They're basically saying, and I was saying this ages ago, surely to heavens, if they were kind of bringing people into Buckingham Palace for him to have, consulting with him, somebody must have spotted them.
Yeah.
And you'd think the protection officers might have known who it was. Who's that Russian bird? That's just somebody from Prince Andrew. Don't worry about it. You'd think that they would have kept a tally, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you think they would have kept a tally, and also you think that the protection officers might have whistle-blown and said, "Oh, actually, something dark and dangerous is going on here."
Yes.
And look, I know we just joked about the fact that the police officers are focusing on this, but I actually think it's right for them to focus on this, because obviously this is a genuine scandal, and I think that Prince Andrew, in reality, Mike, deserves to go to prison for quite a very long period of time, if not the rest of his life, for crying out loud. And also, actually, I think be forced to pay compensation to the people he's hurt. And also, actually, I think issue a national apology for disgracing not just the United Kingdom, but the royal family as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's going to be difficult to prove, I suppose, if there is any criminality involved, and that's part of the difficulty, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
But certainly he should be held to account for the leaking of trade documents, which are obviously kind of confidential, which may be matters of national security, which may be something that they can actually pin on him. In terms of the sexual miscreancy, that may be more difficult. But certainly it would appear that he was giving documents to Epstein, which he should not have been passing on to anyone.
Well, so did Mandelson, right?
Yeah.
Now, what is it about Epstein that makes what means supposedly respectable establishment people want to give him private documents?
I think there's a very easy answer to that.
Right.
It's called a checkbook.
But these guys are loaded anyway.
Yeah, but the trouble is, people like politicians and members perhaps of the royal family like Andrew love money.
Yeah,
right?
They do love money.
And it's a bit like, the old Harry and Meghan thing. There's always somebody with a bigger private jet or somebody with more money than they've got. And they want to hang around with them, and they want to, it starts to get expensive.
Maybe I'm not rich enough to understand it.
No. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to hang around with some quite wealthy people in my time. And when you're with really wealthy people, it kind of money ceases to become an issue.
Right.
You're on a private yacht or you're in a private jet. And life is very different. You're not waiting in a line to get onto an EasyJet plane to go to Cyprus.
You already got one.
You're literally. I mean, I don't want to boast this, but I was on a private jet once with Rod Stewart, and we were flying up to Glasgow to watch a football match, and the pilot kind of just turned around and goes, "Everybody ready?" We all just went, yeah, and we just took off.
Oh, right.
I was like,
that was a weird experience.
Yeah. It was just, because normally, you taxi out, you wait for the, you sit there, nobody tells you anything. Can I get a glass of water? Shut up. How about a sandwich? No.
And it's warm and it's soggy.
And then you fly up and then there's somebody waiting in a car to take you somewhere. It's just a different world.
It's not about the money, it's about you having bigger and better stuff at that point, right?
And also just you don't get asked any questions about it. You just do whatever you want. And I think that's what it is.
That's what it is.
And I think politicians love to be around people who have that kind of power.
Yeah, because also makes them
they
feel
don't have it.
Yeah, because it makes them feel powerful as well then. Because I think that definitely with Mandelson, right, I can totally understand the Mandelson point, which, by the way, for some reason no one's talking about this week. That's just suddenly like disappeared into thin air.
Hasn't it? Yeah.
Like, but that was a huge story about a week ago, and actually I think still matters really, really significantly because we still haven't got to the bottom of it, right? And because Parliament's in recess at the moment, Keir Starmer's not been able to be questioned on it. But then he did a press conference the other day. He was in Wales opening some new train lines, which presumably won't work anyway.
No, of course
but
not.
Of course not.
They only go 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, they're 20 miles an hour. They won't go anywhere, and they're going to cost 3 times as much as you originally thought they will.
Absolutely.
But no one was asking him about Mandelson like they were a few weeks ago. Prime Minister.
This is one of my pet bugbears about the media now. They just sort of move on.
Yeah.
And it's almost like nobody remembers the story.
Hang on
a minute. This guy was giving away national secrets, making money probably from it, if you track the bank accounts, and he should be in prison.
Yeah.
Or he should certainly have been arrested at this point. There was talk, I think, 2 weeks ago that he was going to be lifted by the police.
Yeah.
And nothing seems to have happened.
Well, they searched his house, didn't they? Yeah. That was a huge breaking news story. And then
both of his houses.
After that, it was like, okay, we're going to know what they found. They're going to know just nothing. We're just moving on. Maybe we'll hear something in a few weeks' time, nevertheless. But yeah, I'm a bit confused about why that sort of dissipated out of the air into thin air.
It is very weird. Strange story on the front page of the Mail. I think Telegraph are doing this one as well. The headlines, it's one of those, sort of slightly impervious headlines in the Daily Mail. Britain faces 1936 moment. Defence chiefs warned the Prime Minister. Basically, military-inspired chiefs last night demanded Sir Keir Starmer commit to doubling defence spending as they warned Britain faces a 1936 moment. I mean, I presume by that they mean the rise of Hitler's Nazi party in Germany and the kind of preamble to the Second World War. But they don't really explain that. And Rachel Reeves only yesterday said, I'm not going to give you any more money for defence. So she hasn't got any money, basically.
Because she hasn't asked us for more of it yet.
No, she's spent it all already. Currently, the UK spends just 2.4% of GDP, just over 60 billion quid. I mean, they've borrowed £20 billion a month since they've been in.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's basically 3 months' worth of money for them, right? And that's all we're spending.
Well, the issue with the defence thing is although I work at the Taxpayers Alliance, one area I do think that there's arguments to be spending more money on is defence, but also you have to sort of the procurement system in there, because when it comes to the procurement system, buying tanks or planes or even just like simple rations and gear for soldiers, right? It can take ages to arrive. They're 3 times over the cost, and then when you get them, they don't work anyway, right? And also they're now the next generation or model behind, so now you have to upgrade, right? So that's the problem with the MOD's MOD's procurement system, and the MOD as a department is also just a huge mess. I mean, and it's
where do they count, for example, all the money we've given to Zelensky in Ukraine? Where does that come from?
Yeah, right. So
that's not defence, is it?
I think that's some sort of fund that Boris set up, and I think it has come out of some elements of a foreign aid budget, I believe.
Really?
I think so. Yeah. But obviously, there's also elements of that. Obviously, money has been borrowed to pay for this.
But shouldn't they fold that into the defence budget, because that's kind of what it's for, isn't it?
You think so, right? But look, I'm not against spending more money on defence, but the issue I always have when people come forward and say, I want more money on X, I work at the TPA, my answer is, all right, okay, mate, where are you going to get the money from?
Yeah.
Are you going to curb spending in this area, which again, open to hearing? Are you going to raise taxes, which I'm not open to hearing, by the way, because I think the tax burden in this country is so extortionately high. It's ridiculous.
But all you ever hear them saying is we'd have to raise more taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Why?
But on who? There's not going to be no one left to tax at this point. All the entrepreneurs are leaving.
Yeah.
Small businesses and family farms are being crushed. I mean, I know they said they've U-turned slightly on the agricultural property relief stuff, but they haven't abolished it entirely, mate. So it's still going ahead in reality, although it's watered down a bit. The sort of smorgasbord of tax rises on fuel duty and alcohol duty. They're affecting ordinary people going to the pub or just going to work in their cars. And people are thinking, well, what's the point of me living here and paying these extortionate rates of taxes when the healthcare system is broken, the roads aren't full of potholes, and all I'm seeing my money is going towards is people coming here illegally in hotels and getting PlayStations and blankets, and also now being used to give money over to Mauritius to bloody well fund the Chagos deal.
I know. And also the ludicrousness that yesterday of the story that came out around about 8 o'clock yesterday morning that inflation's down. And you go, sorry, what do you mean it's down? That's what they claimed yesterday, the Treasury, because apparently fuel duty has gone, or fuel prices have gone down slightly, and airline fares have gone down slightly. Therefore, inflation's down. Inflation isn't bleeding well down; it's up. Yeah. Everybody knows that when you go to buy anything, it costs more than it did last week.
Yeah, exactly. You know? The hangover from the COVID era inflationary money printing policies is still real. And when you talk about the cost of living crisis, people often talk about energy prices and net zero, and I agree with all that, but actually inflation is missed out of the overall equation, because also inflation in reality, Mike, is actually is a stealth tax to some extent, because actually what you're doing is you're paying, your money is worth less, and therefore it can buy less, which means you have to then, you know, your overall pay packet is worth less, but your taxes haven't gone down in relation to it. So actually,
you know, there was an old phrase I used to use in the 60s when I was growing up, the pound in your pocket. The pound in your pocket now buys you less than it would have done even like last month, never mind last year or the year before.
When the Tesco meal deal gets back to £3, then we can talk about the cost of living crisis being over.
Don't do that. It's really, it's not good for you. Now, listen, apparently it's National Eyelash Day today. I don't know why I would be told that, but what do you do for National Eyelash Day, by the way?
I just wanted to know what's happening on February 19th.
Oh, I see. Oh, all right.
Maybe smooth your eyelashes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you get those. What do they get? What do those things that women used to have to sort of make their eyelashes, you know, bend? What do they call them?
I don't do it myself, Mike, personally. So
there was some kind of device that I remember my sister had it. You kind of grip your eyelashes and curl them. You kind of curl them. Yeah. Something like that. Anyway, also we've got a poll out. Where would you rather go on holiday? The Chagos Islands, Rikers Island, Alcatraz, or the Isle of Dogs, which is not bad. Amazingly, the Chagos Islands comes top at 71%. And as I said, we're going to be trying to hopefully speak to the man who is the First Minister of the Chagos Islands, who's basically vowing to die before he will be dragged away by, British authorities, because, as I said, incredibly, British authorities are saying if you've gone there illegally as a member, as a Chagosian who actually comes from there because they were removed in the 60s, you could be forced to spend 3 years in prison. Which is outrageous, isn't it? I mean, and the Sun headline actually is really good. We had it earlier. Let's have a look if we can find it.
Well, we're going to have to kick more
Brits evicted from British soil by Britain, right? Which is quite good, isn't it? The Labour lets thousands of small boat migrants cross the channel, but over in the Chagos Islands, you get evicted from your own soil, even if you're British, by the British.
Well,
what is going on?
If they want to put Chagosians in prison, they're going to have to release more criminals, aren't they? In order to put these Chagosians in prison. I mean, actually, Mike, let's just be blatantly honest about this. That's disgusting.
It is.
Isn't it gross? It's completely disgusting.
Also, as we said before, this is a purely ideological decision made by ideologically, I would say demented people who think that, we don't have a right to actually own anything outside of Britain because it doesn't belong to us.
Well, but then a lot of these people also, like you said, don't believe in sovereignty, so they probably don't even think we have a right to own Britain ourselves, right? Britain is just
they're busy giving it away to people from Eritrea.
Yeah, right. Britain is just this sort of random economic zone. It has no cultural history. It has nothing, special about it. In reality, we're just.
And the only thing that we have, which is our heritage in our British Empire, is to be ashamed of. Therefore, we can't celebrate that.
Yeah, we have to constantly self-flagellate ourselves.
Yeah, exactly right. Speaking of which, the Sun this morning have got pubs have secured an extra time victory. Ministers agreed to late opening for all the knockout rounds of this summer's World Cup. I can't get excited about the World Cup this year. I don't know why. It's in America.
Yeah.
I remember the last time it was in America, it was actually not bad. But they don't really get football over there, do they?
No, they don't. Well, soccer. Soccer. No, I mean, to mention the pub point, I mean, the fact that pubs have to go cap in hand to minister to say, please, can I open a little bit later, is actually quite pathetic. And that's the issue with licensing laws in this country. You can talk about our hospitality's on its knees due to the fact that we've had, endless tax hikes and energy prices going up on them. But also it's the fact that pubs aren't really allowed to do, what they actually want to do sometimes, which is stay open later for certain reasons. So they're going to be
until 1 a.m. or possibly 2 a.m. for any knockout games involving England or other home nations.
That's if we get that far.
So that's if they don't get knocked out. I mean, England probably will do all right. Scotland might even do all right. But, I don't know why. There's this kind of mad idea that this should be something we celebrate because, boozers get to stay open later so that everybody can get more pissed and get into fights. Brilliant. That's what's going to happen.
That's going to happen.
Right? And then you're going to end up having to have the police working later so they can arrest all the people having fights. And then we'll end up going into deficit again.
I remember.
Sorry to be negative, guys, but that's kind of what it looks
like. Good morning, guys. Yeah, I remember when I was working in a bar during the Euros in 2022, I believe it was.
Okay.
I have to say that obviously I think we got to the final in that Euros, the reaction from the England supporters in the room when they lost.
At Wembley, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where everybody bumped in without paying.
Yeah, that was the ones. When
the cocaine final. No, lads. Yeah,
we lost to Italy. Yeah, we lost to Italy.
Well, you supported Italy there, Pooch. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
woke.
Top lad.
Yeah, woke.
Italiano.
All right, mate. Yeah, don't eat pasta. When it comes to that day, when we lost in the penalties, the reaction from the England football team, not the England supporters, was actually pretty horrendous.
Yeah.
Like they all stormed out and smashed chairs and set off fire alarms.
Because they were all smashed out of their brains on coke.
And I was just like, why? I know you lost, guys. I know it's upsetting.
Yeah.
But why'd you have to smash up the place?
I know.
If you won, okay, maybe I kind of get it. You're quite excited, but like, why'd you have to smash up the place? And then people were throwing their drinks on the floor. And like, look, I mean, I'm not a football guy, so maybe I don't understand it. But there has to be some level of like decorum in public places regarding football, because then it's people like me, hospitality workers, who have to clean it all up.
Well, it shouldn't be a license to damage, property and or people
and staff.
But this is the problem, right? Because again, football and politics doesn't mix in my view. And any politician who tries to pretend to like football always comes a cropper. If you remember David Cameron, he once came into Talk Sport and claimed to be an Aston Villa supporter, but then couldn't remember if he was an Aston Villa supporter or a West Ham supporter because they're the same colours.
I've always put West Ham,
like claret and blue. But there's a quote here from Shabana Mahmood, right, the Home Secretary, who I'm pretty sure doesn't spend every Saturday and Sunday watching football.
Yeah,
right?
in the boozer, right?
In the boozer, right? She says, we don't want pubs to blow the final whistle before the winning goal. I mean, please.
What person in the Home Office?
Up.
I mean, can you imagine
Shut up.
Can you imagine the person in the Home Office writing that quote, thinking they're really, really clever and smart? Like, oh yeah, this will get the subreaders on side.
Here's what you do, Shabana. Get out there with a Millwall scarf and just walk around, and people will go, "Oh, you're a Millwall fan."
Yeah, pretend you care.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
I'm not sure Millwall would want to have it, to be honest.
No, probably not. No. Well, we had a great clip actually from Millwall the other day, where everyone at the Millwall game is joining forces with the other side. I think was it Bournemouth they were playing. In a cup match, or Nottingham Forest or something, they were all singing Keir Starmer's a wanker.
But Keir Starmer, but the
which
football
indeed
thing,
he is.
The football thing, Keir Starmer apparently is genuinely really into football, but no one believes he is.
Oh, because you know what? Funnily enough, we were going to make plank of the day today Piers Morgan because of the fact that Arsenal managed to blow a 2-goal lead last night against Wolves, who are bottom of the league, and it looks like they might now bottle winning the league. But Keir Starmer, of course, is an Arsenal fan as well. So there's a lot of reasons to hate Arsenal.
Yes,
not just because Piers Morgan's a fan, who's a good friend of mine, by the way. But I mean, I do like making fun of him. But it'd be hilarious if they bottle it yet again. They haven't won the league, I think, for 22 years or something like that. But we'll get to plank of the day a little bit later on. A couple of other stories to mention. Robert Jenrick vowing to bring back the 2-child benefit cap.
Yes.
Now, this is a bit of a reversal of fortunes for the Reform Party.
Indeed.
And you and I haven't really had a chance to speak since the emergence of the new Restore Britain scenario. What's the Taxpayers Alliance view of all that?
So, I mean, on the Jenrick thing quickly, I was there yesterday.
Right.
I was there, I was invited along because often we get invited to sort of local government and economics press conferences that Reform do. And I have to say, I was actually a lot more impressed with Jenrick than I thought I was going to be. And I was actually, I must admit, surprised about the 2-child benefit cap reversal, because when Jenrick first joined, he was asked on TV what he thought of it, and he was like, well, it's Reform Party policy and I agree with it. But now he's come in and said, actually, no, we're going to reverse it. And Nigel has seemingly gone, yep, fair enough.
Which suggests that because they've now made him kind of, shadow chancellor, if you like, maybe he's brought that to them and said, look, I think this is going to be something that we need to do.
And I think that's the interesting point. I think it shows that, I know people say Farage, and it's a one-man band in Reform, but I think actually Farage is actually giving some leeway and some room to the people he's appointed as spokesperson. He has to indeed. And I think also it's a sensible move from Jenrick, not just on a financial standpoint, but on an electoral standpoint. Because as I was saying to you before the show, Mike, no voter whether it's Tory Labour reform, even Green Party
Yeah.
supporters, nobody supports the lifting of the two-child benefit cap. Nobody supports it. It is a very, very niche hobby horse for some SW1 left-wing think tankers who think that basically this is the silver bullet to solve everything, right?
Yes.
And actually no one out there in the British public agrees with it.
No, exactly right. I think we've got a couple of clips, actually. Should we play Robert Jenrick talking about the benefits bomb, as he calls it?
Reform will defuse the benefits bomb that is set to bankrupt Britain. We are developing the most comprehensive plan for welfare reform in British politics. Better, more serious, more rigorous than any other of the parties. And we will be setting that out in the months ahead. We will stop those with mild anxiety, depression, and similar conditions from claiming disability benefits, and instead do everything we can to encourage them into the dignity of work. We will reinstate in-person assessments and require clinical diagnosis to weed out those who are choosing a life on benefits. We will end the abuse of the Motability Scheme, where expensive cars are handed out for conditions like tennis elbow and paid for by working people who could never afford those same cars themselves. And we will make sure that only British nationals can claim benefits in the first place. But we need to go further, because at the moment, the system is not fair to those who pay for it. As a signal of intent today, Reform is changing our policy on the two-child cap for universal credit. The policy was well-meaning. We want to help British working families to have more children. But right now, we just can't afford to do so with welfare. So it has to go. As Reform's Shadow Chancellor, I'm ending it. A Reform government will restore the cap in full. We are the party of alarm clock Britain. We are a party of workers and not welfare.
Hey?
We're live.
Yeah, I know we are. Pooch just telling me we're live. Yeah, we've been live since 7 o'clock. Oh, 1 minute past 7.
I'm making you a coffee.
Actually, sorry, he's making me a coffee. Listen, I'm sorry. It's not fair for me to give Pooch any. He gets a hard time enough from everybody else. You know, he shouldn't get it from me. Mostly from Donald, who can't hear. Maybe get yourself a hearing aid up there in Scotland. It might help you. Anyway, so Robert Jenrick's apparently adopted some glasses there. I don't think we've seen that for a while.
it's this new serious, you know, sensible
Do you think he's
route.
got them from Lord Ali?
Maybe, maybe we don't know.
Or have they taken a? Because it will be one of those things that they have a conversation about, like what sort of glasses should I wear?
Yeah.
Because they're not black; they're kind of a sort of a sort of ivory type, sort of browny colour, aren't they?
Yeah, the sensible man with the glasses,
Yeah.
the adult in the room,
I mean,
so
like
to speak.
you couldn't wear like blue glasses, for example, you know, or turquoise glasses.
Big turquoise
Like
glasses,
really, like
yeah,
Elton
big.
John style. You know.
It comes with a chicken outfit as well.
That would be quite funny. I think we've got Nigel Farage now, also on the two-child benefit cap, as you say, kind of more or less admitting that they might have got it wrong.
Yeah.
The two-child benefit cap would be restored under a Reform government. Keir Starmer's Labour Party will say that's an attack on the family. It will push children into poverty. What say you, Mr Farage?
Well, number one, it's a question of what we can afford. And number two, there are some families, often not British-born families, earning £20,000 a year or more out of this policy. So Jenrick has made it very, very clear, as we always had. I wanted to try and help working British people, but you know what? We're skinned.
So anyway, so we were just talking about what sort of glasses you would pick if you were, in fact, going to go into politics. Angela Rayner would wear sort of something like this, probably. All right. And Pooch picked these for me. I quite like them, actually.
I think they work. Yeah. You know, I look at you, Mike, and I think that's the man I want to trust with the economy.
There's a sort of pinball wizard thing going on. I'm not sure if that's the look we're going for. But yeah, I mean, isn't it funny though? Because you look, I mean, as I say, you know, the whole Restore Britain thing's going on. There's loads of people messaging us every day going, "Why don't you talk about Restore Britain?" And we did a Ben Habib interview, I think, 2 days ago, at which he kind of appeared to have sort of given up because basically Rupert Lowe's not talking
they're
to
joining, aren't they, supposedly?
Well, not really, because I think apparently Ben Habib said, on X, it's because they only kind of interact on X, and Ben Habib said, we're very happy to join up with Restore Britain, let us know what we can do. And then they got ignored for about 24 hours. And then eventually, I think Rupert Lowe said, okay, if you fancy joining Restore Britain, please do. And then Ben Habib said, well, we already did. We joined it like last year. So it would appear that they're not getting on terribly well. Yeah, but and that Rupert Lowe is not really interested in sharing any kind of power scenario with Advanced UK.
Because also Advanced UK, to be fair to them, it is registered with the Electoral Commission, right? It is actually official political party. Restore Britain isn't yet. And
also the other thing that's interesting is that one of the reasons Ben Habib said he left Reform was that he didn't like the structure of the way the party was built like a company. And shareholders were effectively, the ruling class of the party. And Restore Britain apparently set up the same way. It's also kind of set up as a company structure. There's only one share, and guess who it's owned by?
And it's Rupert Lowe.
Rupert Lowe.
Yeah,
so you can't buy into it, if you like.
No, so I mean, what I thought was going to happen, because I saw Ben Habib made a video about it, and he was quite bullish and said, we're going to work, we're going to discuss with our team, because again, like Ben has a board, he's got there's some level of internal democracy in the party.
He's also putting a candidate, whether you like it or not, and a lot of people don't, up at the Gorton by-election.
Yeah, and fair to him, but he's able to do that because he is actually a political party, right? So he's allowed to do that. And if he dropped Advance UK and merged it with Restore, he would then have to help Restore get, on the Electoral Commission and get registered as a political party, which can take a while, Mike, actually, because you have to jump through so many hoops.
Because I'd also said to Ben, I said, presumably now that they've lifted the ban on the local elections, you'll be putting up a load more candidates to stand. Yeah. And he said, no. And it's like, right, okay then, so what's the point then, really, of Advanced UK?
Yeah, I saw some people also on Twitter was more to do with Wales in the Welsh elections, because of course we've got not just got the local elections in London and indeed elsewhere, but we've also got the Scottish and Welsh parliaments and senates electing their representatives, and I saw there's been some internal fights about whether Advance should stand candidates in Wales.
Really?
And there was some argument between some people who were part of Advance and then said, oh no, Advance shouldn't stand in Wales because it will split the vote. I mean, obviously that's what you think it was going to do, but then there's people saying, no, we need to stand because we need to hold Reform's toes to the fire, and it just all seems like a bit of a headache and a mess, Mike. So much so, mate, that I actually can't keep up with a lot of it.
No, and it's a bit like the People's, that thing from Life of Brian with Monty Python, which was probably before your time.
People's People's Front. Yeah, I know that one.
The People's Popular Front of Judea. And what have you done for us lately? And it's all a bit kind of internecine and stupid, and it's kind of like, I want to deport everyone. Do you? Okay then. And what about you? I only want to deport those people. Yeah. And they're all kind of going, well, how many people do you want to deport?
It's a deportation litmus test.
Deportation litmus test. And it's all a bit boring, really, isn't it?
Also, hilariously, I think there's a split on the left and the right. Well, obviously the left love splitting into little bits as well, but the left often, I think, have real, almost like really principled ideological opposition to each other, as oh well, you don't adhere to this form of communism, I adhere to this form of communism.
Like your party people who can't decide who should even run the party.
Right, exactly.
Right? Who's in charge? No one.
Which also has internal splits, right? It's got splits within the overall left-wing split. On the right-wing side, it seems less to do with ideology, because I think actually you look at Ben, you look at Lowe, you look at Farage, and I actually think to some extent they actually agree with each other on maybe 90% of issues, I think.
I think
and
so.
I think what it is to do with people who's fallen out, and actually they want to be in charge of this and they want to be in charge of that, and they think this is being run in the wrong way, or priorities are different. And my view, Mike, look, I'm non-partisan, I'm happy to work with absolutely anyone and everyone, and I like a lot of the people I've mentioned, Farage, Ben and Lowe. I've got a lot of time for all of them together. And I'm happy to talk to anyone from Advance and anyone with Restore. But I think that when it comes to the average member of the British public, the question I'm going to have, Mike, is, well, okay, people know who Farage is, people know who Reform is,
Yeah.
and while Rupert has a really big profile, and absolutely, and I'm sure that will have some cut through into the real world, how is that going to translate into votes and organisations on the ground level, especially when you're not even a proper political party yet, right? So
that's the problem. And where do people get to express their views apart from on Twitter about whether they support it or not? And it's all a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a fart in a bottle, really, isn't it?
So, look, let's just. My view is just wait and see. You never know. In 3 months, 6 months' time, we could still be talking about it, but in 3 to 6 months' time, we can also not be talking about it. And also, we have to be honest about this as well. We talk about Reform being ahead of the polls and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen in 6 months' time. They could flounder something. I mean, with this by-election going on Gorton and Denton, they might lose that to the Greens. So, I mean,
if they don't win that, there will be lots of people who say that's it for Reform.
Yeah, exactly.
They peaked, they can't win
Well, they
anything.
did that after the Caerphilly by-election, didn't they? Which didn't really have any resonance. But obviously, Goodwin is a very big political figure. There's been a lot of eyes on Gorton and Denton.
Yeah.
But I think the Greens might just squeak it, and that's going to be interesting when you see the results, and it's like, who are the top two parties? It's Reform and the Greens.
Yeah.
May you live in interesting times.
Well, I mean, we thought the Lib Dems were weird when they started by-elections. One final story before I let you go. Thousands of patients face delays after a German bone cement supplier has suffered a critical machine failure.
Oh.
This is the last story that you thought I would bring up in front of you. But apparently, if you're waiting for a hip replacement or a knee surgery, you're not going to get it now in the NHS because apparently this German cement company has screwed everything up.
Oh, great. Well, I thought
250,000 operations carried out each year, right? But apparently the critical ingredient is this German cement. I mean, I don't want to make light of it, but I'm sorry. Apparently Heraeus is the name of the company, one of the world's major suppliers, has suffered a critical machine failure at its main production site in Germany. Health officials held emergency meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday night, declaring that there was just 1 week of supply left. So if you're waiting for an operation, I'm afraid you're going to be out of luck.
I thought Germans were supposed to be good at running things, and they're supposed to be efficient,
Trains
and things
especially.
don't break down. There wasn't this. I can't remember the book called. It was this old famous book which used to talk about how Germany was just like the best at everything. And now, obviously, with their reversal of nuclear power stations, meaning their energy prices have gone through the roof.
Well, buying all their energy from Russia
buying
was a bad idea.
all their energy
That
from
wasn't a great
Russia.
idea.
The fact that they're actually just as politically divided as we are. And
Also,
now
Angela Merkel is to blame for the massive wave of immigration.
Huge.
When she said to everyone from Syria, don't worry, you can just come to Germany. And they all came and said, we're from Syria.
Yeah, that was 11 years ago now.
And they weren't from Syria.
No, they weren't.
They were from everywhere else.
Yeah, and now even though the Syrian situation seems to have sort of not almost resolved itself, but is beginning to resolve itself, are any of those people going to go home? Probably not. Probably not.
Now, there's a policy that I would vote for.
There we are.
Would you mind going home, please?
Yeah.
Thanks very much
Don't war
indeed
anymore.
for visiting, but, we've had enough. William Yarwood, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Should we do some super chats, Pooch, if we got any? Let's do that. William Yarwood from Taxpayers Alliance. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you very much indeed. Ruddy Gore says this: had my vote stolen at Redditch. Thanks, Reform, for forcing yet another U-turn by Starmer & Co. and returning said vote to me. I think that means that he's now going to be able to vote in the Redditch local elections, which were otherwise going to be cancelled. Simon has sent us a super chat as well. Simon, thank you very much indeed. Does that every day. Coming up, we're going to be speaking later on to a whole bunch of people, including Right Said Fred, who are coming in, hopefully with their shirts on, to sing No, not going to sing. I don't know what they're going to do. Anyway, let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Good morning. In major political news, US President Donald Trump has dramatically reversed course, warning Prime Minister Keir Starmer not to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, calling it a big mistake, and stressing the strategic importance of the Diego Garcia military base, especially amid potential US action on Iran. This comes just after apparent US backing for the deal. Keir Starmer is the big mistake, in my opinion. Economically, UK inflation dropped to 3% in January, its lowest in nearly a year, thanks to cheaper petrol and bread, though it remains above the bank's 2% target and boosts hopes for future interest rate cuts. If you believe that you'll believe anything. Have you seen the price of Vaseline nowadays? The government has announced tough new rules. Tech firms must remove non-consensual intimate image, revenge porn within 48 hours, or face fines up to 10% of global revenue, or service blocks. Phew. I must have cost Google a fortune. Elsewhere, heavy rain continues, with one Cornish village likely recording 50 straight days of it, while retailers warn of job cuts amid rising costs. And the IFS criticises the government's fiscal rules as dysfunctional. That's your UK headlines roundup. Stay tuned for more updates. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Edward Hughes with the news. We've got lots and lots of you on board already this morning. Loads of you watching, so thank you very much indeed for signing up. Mike's mic is something that I can't say, says Leslie. Well, I've got a microphone here and I've got a microphone here, so I don't know what you're moaning about, to be honest. I think it sounds all right, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm told that it sounds all right. Should we have a look, by the way, Pooch, at the dog? Because Pooch is Pooch. Which is a new section that we're doing in the show, just because it helps cheer people up. There's a great piece of video of a dog yesterday at the Winter Olympics. It's the only thing I watch the Winter Olympics for, is whenever there's a dog that turns up and does something interesting, because the rest of it is an absolute ball fest, right? But have we got it?
Yeah, we've got one.
Yeah, have a look. Delighted to say, having done that, we've got a new voice to introduce you to on the show, and we're going to be seeing a lot of this young man over the course of the next few weeks. Christian Drogan is here. Christian, very good morning to you.
Nice to see you, Mike.
Nice to see you.
Lovely studio you've got.
Isn't
here.
it lovely? Yeah. Christian's down from Manchester, where he's based. He basically is involved in a new venture, which is a website called Watchman, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Tell us a bit about Watchman. It's basically a kind of a what you might call citizen journalist endeavour, isn't it?
Yeah. So Watchman we're a group of journalists. We're sick and tired of the mainstream media and the agendas that we feel are pushed out by it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you know, we've come together and under the umbrella of Watchman. That's our aim, is to sort of go out, investigate, and try and inject a bit of life back into investigative journalism.
Yes, because one of the things that I say a lot about is the fact that the mainstream media now, particularly newspapers and even TV companies as well, they're not really very curious. They're not really interested in finding things out. They kind of get presented with something by a minister or an official, and they report it as though it's real, and they go, oh, yesterday Shabana Mahmood said we're going to open the pubs till 1 o'clock, and there's the front page of the Sun, and you go, why aren't you doing something a bit more interesting? Why are you not actually sending one of your reporters down to Dover? Why are you not sending one of your reporters over to Calais? You did a fantastic documentary, which was run on my old network talk about the Calais camps.
Yeah, I mean,
and what that was like.
I went over to France, and effectively I was an undercover migrant. To my knowledge, I'm the first and only person so far who's lived in the migrant camps of Dunkirk and Calais. Alone.
Right. And you actually stayed in a tent there or something, did you?
Yeah, I stayed in a tent with the migrants,
right.
with the gunfire ringing out at night.
Photo, Christian?
No. I did intend to be in that sort of situation, but it didn't quite happen that way.
That?
So that's me laid down in the camp, with my two Senegalese campmates.
Right. And that must have been quite a terrifying experience, wasn't it?
That was not the most terrifying experience, because it felt sort of controlled in that situation. The part that was very, very scary was when I was walking into the woods. I'd been with the migrants all day.
Right.
We'd been getting escorted from the camp to the holding camp the day before the boat launch.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, by the police, by the French police. And I go to get off the bus, and the French copper takes my picture, and I'm walking into the woods at night, and I don't know what's at the end of the woods.
Right.
I don't know if there's a people smuggler with a gun,
right.
Because obviously I've heard a lot of stuff from people who work in the channel, and some of the things we've found out are pretty terrifying, really. So.
And did they not suspect you as an Englishman, or did you have an accent? Did you pretend to be from somewhere else, or?
I just kept quiet most of the time, and I did put a bit of an accent on. There was one camp in Calais where I stayed for a few nights, and actually I was just honest with those guys. I said I was on the run from the police in the UK, and I was living in Spain, but I needed to go back to see my family. So they actually created a nickname for me, which was UK.
UK.
So
Yeah.
But yeah, so
And when you saw all these people around you and you met all these, what was your sense of who they all were and what they wanted and why they were coming here?
so these people, Mike, were not fleeing war generally. I mean, even the people that said they were fleeing war, the stories weren't convincing.
Right.
Now, their existence in these camps is being propped up by the migrant charities.
Yeah.
There's no shadow of a doubt that that's the case. Those people wouldn't be able to be there if the charities weren't there.
Right.
So, in a way, I guess some people could say that the charities are aiding and abetting the
There's no
smuggling
question.
operation.
I mean, one of the things that happened when I was at Talk was that, unbeknownst to me, I'd made a couple of statements about some of the migrant charities being complicit, if you like, in the very least, helping these people to stay in the country because they were giving them advice, they were telling them which, lines of attack to use. If they were being interviewed by customs officials or Home Office officials, this is what you say. This is how you get to stay in the country.
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to me, the bloody the sort of compliance people put out an apology to these charities because they said that I'd accused them of effectively aiding and abetting, as you've just said. And it's very clear that that's what's going on, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, even the French police are, in my experience, and I was a migrant in that situation, for all they knew.
Right.
The French police are effectively bullying the migrants because they don't want them there. So what I experienced was the French police are very unpleasant, and then next thing you know, the French police are escorting the migrants from the camps to the boats.
Yeah.
And I saw it and videoed it. I saw it with my own eyes and I videoed it. So it actually made me feel a little bit sorry for the situation on our side, the police on our side, because the problem's just being dumped over the channel.
And you also found that there was quite a lot of organised crime involved in this as well, right? That the people who are really running the camps are not really the authorities, it's more the criminals. Yeah,
there's so many drugs in those places, there's guns, and yeah, I mean...
And where are they getting the guns and the drugs from? I mean, are they just being shipped in or what?
I don't know. We're hoping to go back out and do some more investigations. We've built a good team now to take out there. Experienced, military guys and that sort of thing. Right. So,
so Watchman is aiming to kind of expose what's really going on.
Not just over the channel,
but back
across
here as well.
Britain. We want to report on Broken Britain.
Yeah.
There's lots to report on over here that doesn't ever make it to the newspapers or the mainstream media. And there's people who have evidence and they want to be heard. They might put it on social media and it just disappears into the ether because of it's not really for news, is it? There's entertainment. There's all the kinds of other things on social media. So yeah.
So what are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment we are hoping to we're hoping to go back out to France soon. I'm not going to reveal the date, but I have brought a story.
And are you risking arrest or kind of criminal charges in this country by doing any of that?
Well, realistically, everything that we do is, to our knowledge, within the law.
Right.
Now, as we've seen recently with other sort of stories and other people, that can still backfire on you, can't it?
Sure.
You can still be sort of banned from France as the guys from Raise the Colours have.
Yeah.
For not really doing anything wrong, as they believe they've not done anything wrong, and yeah.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it, that you can get banned from going to France, but you can't get banned from coming from France to Britain illegally.
Well,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of ridiculous.
There's people firing machine guns in the woods, and they're not banned.
Right.
So, it's all a big illusion, really, isn't it? But the story that I've brought to you today, Mike, is, and that I want to share with everyone, is it's come from a migrant rescue worker who works in the channel.
Right.
Now, we believe. We believe, obviously, from our knowledge, and there's other aspects to this story which I can't yet talk about.
Okay.
But this story is unreported dead bodies in the channel, and this channel rescue worker was part of an operation, a mayday call called by fishing boats So they received the Mayday call. They arrived at this at the migrant dinghy in the channel, and there was no one on the dinghy. Instead, there was 41 dead bodies in the channel.
41.
41 dead
Wow.
bodies, but there's no report of it. There's no statistics, and I mean it leads us on to another point really, in terms of the statistics around the channel crossings. I mean we're getting some boat figures. They're the only ones that have been rescued,
Right.
so we're only getting the rescued boat figures.
Yeah.
And there's from what I've heard, there's boats that are landing on the beaches,
Yeah.
and the people are running away. We all know that.
Well, I've heard many reports like that from
Yeah.
people from places like Dungeness, which is, and everybody knows the actual geography of the coastline. It's
Yeah.
very flat.
Yeah.
You know, all the way from Dungeness, which is sort of on the bottom right-hand corner for anyone who doesn't know, and you know, north you go up to Dover, west you go sort of over to Hastings, and all of that level sort of beach is a place where you can simply land a dinghy,
Yeah.
get out of it, and just run into the town. And
Yeah.
that's what I hear from people telling me an awful lot of the time.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think the boat figures are just a distraction. Realistically, I mean, I've heard of one guy the other day. He's coming inside a tractor tyre, so
Right.
they've fitted him into the tractor
Oh, wow.
tyre. They've got over here. I mean, that's some operation, that Mike. You know, it's
Is that
not.
the spare, presumably? He's not like going round
No,
and
he's
round.
going round in
He's
the
going
tractor.
round?
Yeah, in the tractor
Crikey.
tyre. Yeah.
You imagine what he's like when he gets out.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah, how do you know you've got smuggled in a tractor tyre? Because you
Yeah.
can't walk in a straight line.
Yeah, but one thing that I was offered by the people smugglers, because there's not just a few people smugglers on TikTok, there's thousands.
Yeah.
And
And it's a very lucrative business, isn't it?
there's all kinds of services on
Yeah.
TikTok. You know, you can get your fake documents, your visa.
Right.
You know, you can get a job working for the smugglers on TikTok,
Yeah.
predominantly TikTok. But yeah, I mean, one thing that obviously that we found is you're actually advised as a migrant, as an illegal migrant wanting to get pay for a service or travel agent fees, travel agent service. You're actually advised to go by lorry. Now,
Yeah.
they say that you'll have less problems by lorry. You've less chance of getting caught,
Yeah.
and you know you've less chance.
And
of
again,
dying.
you know, anecdotal evidence only, obviously, but you know, there's you know, I always say for every one report, there's probably about another 10 to 20 actual incidents where you'll get. Again, you'd get lorry drivers ringing in saying, you know, I've just pulled into a service stop, you know, Newport Pagnell on the M1. And there's a lorry in front of me. A load of guys just jumped out the back of it and ran off into the woods.
Yeah.
You know, and that happens a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
They reckon there's about 7,000 or 8,000 a year coming that way, but it could be more, couldn't it?
From my experience and from what I know, I think the figures are well out. I think they're miles below what they actually are.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the 41 dead bodies that have been pulled out of the channel and there's no report of it, for me, my question is why?
Yeah.
Why is there no report of it?
Right.
I mean, the only sort of things that I can think of really is because it sort of makes it even more of a case against the channel crossings.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, most of the politicians will say when they're pressed on it, you know, we need to stop this trafficking because people are dying. So why wouldn't they want to tell people that more people are dying if that's the case? You know.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah. I mean.
And in your kind of investigations, because this is another thing that I suspect, but I've never been able to prove, that most of the people who are coming are not paying to come. They're not giving $4.5 grand or $5 grand to the people smugglers. What they're doing is they're kind of signing up, if you like, to be part of a criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
And when they get here, they then get told, you owe us $5 grand, you're going to go work over there.
Yeah.
They're selling drugs or killing people or in prostitution or whatever it is, and you will pay us back that way.
Yeah, I mean it's a slave trade.
Yeah.
You know, it's a modern day slave trade.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed that with my own eyes. I've witnessed at one point when one of the migrants sort of approached me, he must have thought I was something to do with the people smuggling operation. He said, "Oh, can I be your boat driver? Can I be your boat driver?"
Right.
And I've said, "No, not me,
Right.
sort of thing." You know.
Right.
So they obviously don't. They turn up with the clothes on the back. The guy actually who I'm talking about, he he borrowed my phone, rang his mum back in Senegal. And I stayed in touch with her for a few months because she kept ringing me crying.
His mother?
His mother, she
Yeah.
was ringing me. I mean, we had to use translate because she spoke Wolof and French. So, yeah, I mean, I stayed in touch with her, and it was quite sad, really, because, you know, her she said to me, her family, she worked hard all her life to raise the family as a single mother in Senegal, but they were happy. You know, there was no problems there. They all had jobs. The son who'd left had a job.
Right.
And
so he wasn't fleeing a war zone?
No, but he'd left for this dream that's being sold by the human traffickers or the people smugglers. And I suppose it's the government, the British government, that's enabling that dream to be sold.
Because I guess no matter how well they're doing in Senegal, they could be making more money here, presumably, and sending money back.
That's
and all
it.
that. Right.
So effectively what you've got there is a family that has been torn apart because, for no other reason than he's left to come over for something that realistically doesn't exist. And you know, yeah.
Wow. Well, it's a rich vein of activity for you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And so we're hoping that we're going to be talking to you every week.
Yeah, I mean, we've got
not necessarily always in the studio, but you know, from wherever you are.
Yeah, I mean, we've got so much. We've got a big list of stuff to get working at, and that's what we're doing. But yeah, also if anybody wants to get in touch with us and wants us to go and investigate things, then they can do. They can get in touch with us at the minute by email.
Okay. So give us that email address.
That email is watchmanraw@protonmail.com.
Okay. And in terms of finding Watchman online, where is that?
That's watchmanuk.com.
Okay. Right, watchmanuk.com. We'll keep an eye on that because it's going to be fascinating what Christian gets up to. And you've got a little team around you, presumably, as well.
Yeah. There's a team of us, and we're collaborating with other people who've got great intelligence over the channel and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Well, it's a very worthwhile enterprise, but dangerous as well. So take care, look after yourself. Couple of comments. Yeah, let's do it. His English improved quickly after he arrived in the UK. Yeah, well, you know, I said, where are you staying? He went the holiday inn. I mean, great. Yeah. You know, we paid for that for you. You know, he's done all right for himself as a migrant. Says Todd Wobble. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much indeed. I mean, it's all very funny, but I mean, what Christian's doing is really quite important work and amazing. And a lot of people have got very nice things to say about how brave you are. So thank you for doing it. So keep in touch. We'll see you soon. Christian Drogan there. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, Jamie Jenkins is going to be here. We've got the international clock behind us, which is stuck at 7:02. The real time here in London is 8:03, of course. Let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Good morning. In major political news, US President Donald Trump has dramatically reversed course, warning Prime Minister Keir Starmer not to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, calling it a big mistake, and stressing the strategic importance of the Diego Garcia military base, especially amid potential US action on Iran. This comes just after apparent US backing for the deal. Keir Starmer is the big mistake, in my opinion. Economically, UK inflation dropped to 3% in January, its lowest in nearly a year, thanks to cheaper petrol and bread, though it remains above the bank's 2% target and boosts hopes for future interest rate cuts. If you believe that you'll believe anything. Have you seen the price of Vaseline nowadays? The government has announced tough new rules. Tech firms must remove non-consensual intimate image, revenge porn within 48 hours, or face fines up to 10% of global revenue, or service blocks. Phew. I must have cost Google a fortune. Elsewhere, heavy rain continues, with one Cornish village likely recording 50 straight days of it, while retailers warn of job cuts amid rising costs. And the IFS criticises the government's fiscal rules as dysfunctional. That's your UK headlines roundup. Stay tuned for more updates. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed. Edward Hughes there with the news. Right Said Fred are here. They've just turned up. I didn't even know they were coming. You never know who you're going to see in the studio here. Thanks, guys. Listen, where are we? We've got to play a couple of clips, I think, while we're here. But I can't find the list. What about the Zelensky one? Should we do that? You know, world's biggest beggar. He's back. Have a look.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but this morning the Winter Paralympics have announced that Russian and Belarusian competitors will be allowed to perform under the flag of their countries, which is obviously not the case in other sporting competitions since the war began. What is your reaction to that decision?
No, they, I don't want to say that it's about money, because I don't know. But it's dirty decisions, absolutely. Not respectable and not European. This is not, this is Europe from the point of values. I think this is awful decision, absolutely. And not just decision. So we will react. I didn't know about it. Thank you that you said to me, but I didn't know about it. But it's, that it's like the Russian way of life, how they began this aggression. We say it, як перекладіть повзуче. Gripping occupation. A little bit Crimea. Nobody answered. Nobody gave a kick. Okay, Donbass. Nobody is answering. Nobody is putting sanctions. Okay, full-scale invasion. Step by step, the Russian way of life. The same with Olympic Games.
Yeah, Piers Morgan there, not very happy this morning after Arsenal managed to lose a 2-goal lead to Wolves yesterday evening. And now they might lose the Premier League altogether. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Christian Drogon is a top guest as Lord Petrolhead. Glad he'll be on every week. When Starmer is found guilty of just about everything, can he be deported to the South Pole, please? As usual, a great show. That's a very kind super chat. One from Jude who says, Substack, please. Pretty please. Yeah, we had a bit of a problem with Substack this morning. Apparently it crashed, according to Pooch. So we'll try and catch up with that at some point over the course of the next couple of hours. So you should be able to watch the show on there if you're waiting. But in the meantime, just watch it on YouTube. I know the ads are there, but you know, it's better to watch it than not to watch it. Will Geddes has just turned up as well. It's turning into quite a day, this. Didn't know he was coming either. He's managed to come in by stealth, He's yeah, come on, here he is. Yeah, they're all here. Look. There they are, look. You never know what's going to happen in the studios here. It's brilliant. Right, says Fred. Will Geddes. I don't know who else is going to turn up. We've got Jamie Jenkins reporting in from South Wales, Welsh Wales. Jamie, very good morning to you, sir.
Not there yet, sorry.
Oh, he's not there yet?
No.
Well, the one guy I was expecting to have isn't here. And I've got all these other characters. Anyway, we'll come back to that. I'll tell you what we could do. Should we do Plank of the Day?
Let's do Plank of the Day.
Let's do that.
Hello, it's Plank of the Day time.
Now, I don't normally do a lot of sport on this show, but we thought today there wasn't much around, apart from obviously Keir Starmer being plankish every single day. We can't make it him every single day. But we're going to do Arsenal today because Arsenal are supposedly top of the league, right? I think they haven't won the Premier League for 20 odd years, right? And last night they were in a position to be 7 points clear at the top of the league over Manchester City. They would have had 60 points, I think, had they beaten Wolves, who are at the bottom of the league. And one of the reasons why we're making them planks is because, one, Keir Starmer is an Arsenal supporter, which is good. And also, so is Piers Morgan, who's actually not a bad guy and a good mate of mine, but I'm going to make fun of him for now. A cock-up between goalkeeper David Raya and a bloke called Gabriel basically resulted in a 94th minute own goal, which meant that Wolves went from being 2-1 down to drawing 2-2, which now means that Manchester City can win the league if they win every single game that they've got, including one against Arsenal, which basically means that Arsenal will have yet again bottled it, thrown away the possibility of winning the league, which will drive both Piers Morgan and Keir Starmer insane. So that's got to be worth Plank of the Day in anybody's book, hasn't it? Absolutely brilliant. So Mikel Arteta is the manager. Tore into his Arsenal flops, it says on the back page of The Sun, after they threw away a 2-0 lead to blow the title race wide open. That bloody coffee machine's making a lot of noise, isn't it? Anyway, so Plank of the Day goes to Arsenal. Thank you very much indeed.
Hello, it's Plank of the Day time.
Now, are we still waiting for Jamie to hook in to us? All right, so let's have a look at Jacob Rees-Mogg, shall we? He was here just the other day, basically confessed to us that he was fascinated by what we were doing here because we're having such a great deal of success off to the side in the independent space. But he also wanted to talk about herons, which Christian was going to ask us about, actually, but we didn't get around to it. So here he is, talking about the herons. Final question, because Lord Viking is one of our very regular contributors. Does Jacob like herons? Now, that's the question. Now, you might have noticed that there's a sort of heron theme going around the studio. And the reason for that is that I live down by the River Thames, sort of opposite Canary Wharf. And I came out of the house one day when I was in the midst of plotting this new beginning for myself to see a huge heron sitting on the railing overlooking the river. And that was some kind of omen. And I thought, because I've never seen a heron there before, I didn't know there would be one.
This is absolutely brilliant, because this is so like the ancient Romans, who were always looking at which way the birds went. And one of the cleverest things Julius Caesar did was made himself Pontifex Maximus, the high priest, which gave him the power to determine what the omens meant. And if it was not a day that was going well for him, he said, well, the omens say you can't make any decisions today.
Wow.
And he was able to put it off the next day. So I think you have a wonderful lineage to your loving of herons and your study of the omens of birds, the auguries.
Yes.
And I think herons are beautiful
birds. Well, what's
birds.
interesting is that people from all over the world are sending me pictures of herons that they've seen.
Oh, fantastic.
We've got a couple of herons in. One complaint that one's actually more of a crane than a heron. There
are lots of cranes at Canary Wharf too.
There certainly are. Amazingly, I don't know who's paying for them to be built, but one of the things that I found out was that in lots of different cultures, the heron is a harbinger of new beginnings. It's something that...
well, of course, yes. And the crane brings the baby and all of that, yes.
It's all of that. So
That's how I got 6 children. The crane just delivered them. It was quite remarkable.
That's incredible. Well, Somerset is a weird place.
It's not a weird place. It's God's own county, I'll have you know.
I used to live in Devizes. I know very well how strange it is. Anyway, listen, Jacob, great to see you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm really excited about what you're doing. I think it is an exciting and interesting development.
Jacob's got some interesting things to say, actually, about... We're going to lengthen that clip, I think. It's been sort of, shall we say, unwisely edited early, I would say, because he talks about how fascinated he is by what we are actually doing. Jamie Jenkins, I think, is here. And we're ready for you, Jamie. I've got the super glasses on, just in case, there's any light emanating from South Wales that we need to be careful about. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. I was thinking as well, because you're one of the hardest working presenters. Whenever you're on holiday, you need to get that former BBC presenter, Andy Crane, in, I think, because there's a number of cranes in the studio. We'll get him in when you're on your next holiday.
It's a good idea. Andy Crane, yeah, brilliant. Let's talk a bit about the economy, I suppose, to begin with, because we found out, well, 2 things, really. The unemployment levels now rising well above what they should be. Highest level of unemployment now for 5 years, I think. Highest level of youth unemployment in 11 years, I think I'm right in saying. And then also, bizarrely, this ridiculous story that came out yesterday that inflation apparently is down, which I don't believe for a second.
Yeah, so a big week on the economic front. Not great news for the government on the employment stats, Mike. So there's 2 different sets of figures, and I used to work at the ONS, as you know that. So I'll just break them down what we've actually had. So we get a survey that tells you kind of how many people are in employment, how many people are looking for work. And you're right, the unemployment rate's highest for 5 years, and it only peaked up in that period because we had basically the COVID pandemic. So it's pretty much 10, 11 years the highest unemployment rate that we've had, and it's only going in one direction. And then we also get the HMRC. So when you pay your tax, basically you're on the pay-as-you-earn tax system. They track how many people are on the system paying tax as well, and we've got some data there. And we've lost 162,000 jobs since the election, and things aren't getting great there. But over half of that loss that we've had, Mike, are young people. And we've talked, I think, on your previous show when you was over at the other place, we've been talking for months about this. So there's been a lot of talk in the last week about youth unemployment. But, if you want what's really going on, just get on your show, because we've been talking about this for a long time. And half of that job loss has been young people. A lot of people talking about the national minimum wage rises. A lot of people talking about the jobs tax. Again, we've been talking about this for a while, but it is biting. It is having an impact. And what's more revealing, Mike, we have ticked over the European Union now. So we've got a higher youth unemployment rate here. than we have in the European Union when you take the average. UK is still lower than places like Spain, but there's two countries in the world, Mike, that do really well. You've got Germany, really low youth unemployment, and Japan, significantly lower as well.
Yeah.
The reason, Mike, basically they have a workforce and an education system that are married up. So in Germany, there's a good pipeline from school to work. In Japan, you've got a good graduate recruitment. So when Tony Blair back in, when he came in, education,
Yeah.
I've seen many graduates on the TV, because they've been talking about this across lots of media outlets, graduates coming out with first class degrees saying, I put hundreds of applications in, I'm not getting any reply, or I'm not getting a bite. That's pretty much, Mike, because we've got an education system completely separate from a work system.
Yeah.
Loads of people going off getting first class degrees in subjects that employers got no interest in. And that's another legacy of Tony Blair.
It is. But also, even people with degrees which you would think would actually be useful are finding it difficult to get jobs. I was listening to a show yesterday in which somebody rang in and said their son, who's got a sort of engineering degree, which you would normally think would be a absolute entry level, no problem at all into a manufacturing business, was struggling to get a job because there's actually no jobs in manufacturing because businesses are now so unsure about what's going to come down the pipe in economy, in the sense of the economy and how bad it's going to get, that they're just not hiring.
No, an engineering, manufacturing, what do they rely on, Mike, to do their roles? They rely on energy, they rely on electricity. And we talked in a few weeks ago, didn't we, about the highest energy prices in pretty much in Europe, 4 times what we got in the USA. So the manufacturing sector is uncompetitive when you're comparing their input costs of electricity. I know Richard Tice was talking about, I think at one of the reform launches this week, about getting, going back into the North Sea drilling, potentially doing fracking. And Ed Miliband was calling him out on this, saying that it's going to increase energy prices, reforms policy. Now, it doesn't take an economics degree, Mike, to realise that when you increase the supply of something, the price would come down. So the US have got significantly lower prices where they've got access to their own gas. So ultimately, Mike, if you want to get inflation down, and we can talk a little bit more about the inflation in a second, if you want to get inflation down even further, if you want to reduce the cost of living, if you want to increase jobs, the fundamental thing in the economy is energy. And if you don't get that energy price down, then you're not going to be competitive. It fills through to all parts of the economy. And that's why probably people are struggling to get into engineering roles. But that jobs tax, Mike, does have a big impact because, if you've got somebody with 10 or 15 years experience, think, well, I'll go with those over somebody who's brand new because I don't have to train them up as much. So that incentive of having a lower wage to start, or national insurance would be a bit lower as well, that incentive to employ that first person on the rung on the ladder has been reduced. And I think the Labour Party policy as well is to eradicate the youth minimum wage, and that's something that's going to backfire. I think there's talk of perhaps not increasing the minimum wage as much for young people. It's all very well, Mike. It's the same with the workers' rights.
What, another U-turn, you mean?
Another U-turn. The thing is, Mike, they champion workers' rights. But remember, you have no rights as a worker when you sat in the house unemployed. That's the problem with this government, Mike. They just have a lot of ideology of what they want to do, but don't think of the real world harm they do to people every single day.
Yeah, I mean, that is the problem, isn't it? And a couple of people are sending in some interesting questions, including the sort of mention of the dreaded AI word, because I think a lot of companies as well are kind of waiting to see what that's going to bring them in terms of whether they need to hire more people or maybe hire fewer people, because jobs that would traditionally have been done by graduates actually could now be done by AI.
An element of that, Mike, but what's the hardest hit this part of the economy at the moment is basically hospitality. And when you look at hospitality and you go into the bars and people are serving you food, we haven't got to the point, Mike, where robots are coming out and serving you pints and serving you food. So, but AI will have an impact, but it could have a positive impact as well. If you think about the amount of borrowing, and we got new borrowing figures out tomorrow from the ONS, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit in detail about those next week, Mike. But if you think about the public sector and how kind of inefficient parts of the public sector, I always think, Mike, so I've been back and forth with a family member in hospital the last year, and you go and you go and speak to the doctor, and everything in Wales is a bit behind, again, England. Everything in Wales, it's all written down as notes. And then the notes are written down, and then the new doctor who's coming to see the patient has to read the notes. When maybe that time they're reading the notes would have been better spent with the patient, because we just need to embrace technology. You could get a system where everything's digitalized, AI can summarize, what do I need to know about this patient quite quickly? So AI could have a positive effect in getting things like waiting lists down, because rather than the inefficient of reading notes, writing notes, you could be dictating things on the fly, Mike. And this government needs to embrace that. I don't really trust this government to embrace technology, Mike, because they can't get the basic things right.
Well, I wouldn't trust this government to go down the corner shop and buy me a packet of bubble gum, to be honest. I mean, they're useless, hopeless. But what about the inflation figures? Because, I mean, people are baffled. A lot of people, like me yesterday, I was like, how is it possible that the inflation figures are technically going down, according to the ONS? Because everybody knows that's not true, but they're clearly using a kind of a method and a basket of whatever it is, goods and services that they count, to create something that they want to create, because obviously the government would like to say that the inflation figures are going down, but everybody knows it's crap.
Well, so the first thing to explain, Mike, is when inflation comes down, some people think, well, prices aren't coming down where I am. And so if inflation's still above 0%, prices are still going up. So all that we've seen yesterday is, according to the average across the economy, the average prices are going up, but they're going up a bit slower than what they were the previous month. And some of the key drivers, because Starmer has been putting out tweets about saying, it vindicates the economic plan is working, our choices are basically reducing inflation. First thing on that, Mike, inflation maybe slightly down is 3%. It was 2% in June 2024, the month before the election. So if they want to talk about their choices of bringing inflation down, it's higher than when they took office. And the big things that were helping to drive inflation down, actually, Mike, were things outside of the government's control. So oil prices have been coming down, and that's factored into the basket of goods. So paying for your petrol at the pump, obviously if you've got an electric car, it doesn't make any impact there. But if you're paying at the pump, you are seeing some slight reductions in petrol prices if the forecourts are passing that on. And another contribution was airfares as well. I'm assuming perhaps the oil price is feeding through to air fuel as well. Air prices come down a lot as well. But so that's the average of the economy. But air prices coming down, airfare prices coming down doesn't really help the family in Croydon, Mike, who can't afford even to go on holiday. So the figures are still too high, they're above the Bank of England target. And ultimately, Mike, the government will jump on the fact that their plan is working. Rachel Reeves was talking about her economic plan is working. Well, if the plan is for inflation above target, is for job losses, for high borrowing, destroying the UK, if that's what the plan of Rachel Reeves is, Mike, then it's definitely working for her.
Yeah, absolutely right. Good to see you. Jamie, thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jenkins, tell us where your Substack is, where you can find it.
Yeah, so Mike, everybody, I've just published this morning all the figures on the youth unemployment story that's been going on. So people can get across to just Google Stat of the Nation, or just chuck my name in Stats Jamie, statsjamie.co.uk, get my Substack and get everything direct to you for free basically on that, Mike, and get over to yours as well, get your numbers up. I think, as I said to you last week, the only growth in the economy is your subscribers, I think.
Absolutely right. Good to see you. Yeah, Jamie Jenkins, thank you very much indeed. Reporting in there from Welsh Wales. This from Hev Chip. North Pole has polar bears, a better option. I presume that's something to do with the poll that we've got going on at the moment, in terms of where you would rather go on holiday. Would it be the Chagos Islands, Rikers Island, Alcatraz, or the Isle of Dogs? Apparently the Chagos Islands is coming up top, 71%. Brilliant headline, by the way. What's going on there?
At least it's warm.
Well, at least it's warm, yeah, exactly right. But how about this, though, for a great headline in The Sun this morning? Brits evicted from British soil by Britain. Right, because the Chagosians have decided to go and occupy the Chagos Islands because they want it back, basically. And there's a guy by the name of Misleet Mandarin who we're trying to reach at the moment. He's on the beach there, apparently, in the Indian Ocean island. He was elected First Minister. He arrived there yesterday with his 74-year-old father and 2 other islanders. And guess what? Starmer and his goons have said they're going to be arrested and evicted from the island, which is their own, and they're basically going to put them in prison for 3 years. What is going on? So, but if you come here, presumably from, I don't know, Eritrea or Sudan or Morocco, you get put up in a Holiday Inn and given some pizza and a nice warm rug and maybe some tickets to the next Arsenal game with Keir Starmer. Brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. We've got lots more to do. Shall we play a couple more clips? Super chats as well. This one from Alison, who says, are you still doing your May show with Jeremy Kyle? No, but I'll tell you what we are doing. We're doing a May show just with me and a bunch of other people. So it's going to be called Mike Graham and Friends. And we're going to be performing at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. And we'll tell you more about that, I think, tomorrow, Pooch. Is that right? We're going to have an official announcement, which we'll be able to share with you tomorrow, basically. So it's very exciting. Very, very exciting. There's going to be some really cool people there. We've still got Right Said Fred going to come up to talk to us very shortly. We've got Will Geddes here as well. We're going to be asking him about the Royal Protection Squad and Andrew. I keep wanting to call him Prince Andrew, but of course he's not anymore. There's now 8 police forces looking into how many people he was shagging. Also, they're finding out whether or not he may have actually had police protection protecting him from any crimes and criminal output that he was going on with, because they're now looking at whether or not the National Crime Agency could find out if his protection officers were actually concealing crimes that he might have been committing, which is a bit worrying. Let's see, what should we do?
What's in Mike's sack?
Yeah, let's do what's in my sack, because we very kindly we've got an address now, so people are sending me things all the time. Hey?
I'll do the bumper.
All right.
You've got mail.
Yeah, a lot less in there. No, sorry. I'm not saying anything. No. What do you got? Oh, look at this. Oh, this is nice. Yeah. Here we go. And we're getting a lot of cups now, actually. Oh, you've got more cups than I know what to do with. Oh, this is this is some toilet paper. Keir Starmer toilet paper. Crap with Keir. There you go. Excellent. If you want to send anything in, there's the address: Suite 19.6, Exhibition House, Addison Bridge Place, London.
Misspelling of Keir there.
Misspelling of Keir. Should it be Keir? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's a bit pedantic for you to notice that. Oh, look, it's got his face on it. You can literally wipe your ass with Keir Starmer. It's the best thing I've seen in a while. What else we got there? Up on here, we've got. How did you manage to put it there? Hang on a minute. Let's see. This looks like it's some highlighter pens sent in by. A gift from Paul and Liz Carr, MG Norfolk Fan Club. A Heron gift also due on Monday. Thank you very much indeed. That's good, actually, because I'm often looking for highlighter pens and nobody ever has them. By the way, check this out. We've got bumper stickers now as well. Nice. We're going to be telling you how you can get your hands on one of those to stick on the back of your vehicle, whether it be a tractor or whether it be a van or a taxi or a disability scooter. What's this? Oh, that's the receipt. Okay. That's good. Very good. Thank you very much indeed. What else? Another jiffy bag here. This is lovely. Woodland Trust. Those are the people that are charging my dog to go for a walk in the woods. Can't believe you sent me one of their cards. Amanda from Cornwall says, Dear Mike and your great team, thanks for your great show each morning. I thought you might like these coasters. Amanda from Cornwall. Let's have a look. This is great, isn't it? We could kit out an entire house here. We have coasters. Herons. There you go. This is brilliant. You can tell it's a heron. This is one for Donald because it's got an S-shaped neck, unlike the crane. That's great. 4 herons. I'm going to use one now. Yeah, I'll put my water on it. There you go. That's good. Very nice. What else we got?
That one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have a look. This is from. Is that Elizabeth? I can't really read. P.S. Matching mug to follow.
That's not what she's done.
Dear Mike, here's a painting of a heron for you. Best wishes to you and Pooch. A lovely show which we very much enjoy. Thank you. Get the translucent tapes between the brown and white. Oh, sorry. I'm like an idiot here, aren't I? Sorry. It's just giving me instructions as to what to do. All right, hang on. Oh, look at that. That's lovely. Look at that. That's a beautiful picture of a heron, that. Very nice. Can you tell what the name is, though? Because I can't quite... It looks like Elizabeth. Elizabeth and Peter, maybe? Elizabeth Parry Williams, could that be right? Mike's heron. Very nice. That's lovely. Thank you very much. That's great. Tremendous. Do you know what we should do before we talk to Ben Pyle, who's going to talk to us about net zero and that complete moron, Ed Miliband? Let's have a look at Ed Miliband trying to answer a question, which, of course, he can't do.
But explicitly, do you believe that China poses a security risk to our energy system?
Of course there are security risks in relation to China that we've got to be vigilant about.
Specifically with regard to our
energy
system?
Yes, I'm saying to you that's why we've got to be very cautious about our energy system.
Okay, so given that acknowledged caution, the sort of topics that Parliament deserves to see the detail on include whether this deal involved commitments not to complain to China about slave labour being used in solar production, supply chains, commitments to maintain resilience on maintain reliance on Chinese supply chains.
Do ask me, Mr. Thomas, any questions you like about our relationship to China.
And this is what I'm doing. So why not publish the text of the deal?
Why don't you, as I say, we're following the practice of the previous government.
But you have released, Secretary of State, you've released the text of deals with other countries. Why is China being treated differently?
I'm just explaining to you that we're following the practice of previous governments.
But I'm asking about this government. This government
do ask me, Mr. Thomas, any questions you like.
This government has published the text of deals with other countries. Why not release the text of the deal for China?
As I say, we're following the previous practice.
I'm talking about this government, Secretary of State. You've released it for other
countries. We're following the previous practice, as I said. Text. But do ask me any questions about our relationship with China.
So why not release the text?
Well, I think I've explained to you the practices that we're following, and with certain countries, certain countries we have certain approaches, and with others we have other approaches.
Okay, so if there's a different approach to China, why is China different?
Well, as I say, just ask me any questions you like on this.
That's what I'm doing. This is the question I would like to ask. So why is China being treated differently?
I've answered the question, Mr. Thomas.
He's answered that quite a few times.
I don't believe he has. He's made reference to the previous government.
Whether you like the answer is another matter, but he has.
This government has a very inconsistent approach, Gemma. They've released the text of deals with other countries, but not with China. There is a two-tier approach, quite evidently. So if the government is going to apply a uniform approach, why does the Secretary of State not release the text of this deal?
We proceed on the basis of on a certain basis with some countries and a different and different basis with different countries, as has been the practice of previous governments. But honestly, ask me any questions about our relationship with China, and I'll answer them for you.
And that's what I've been doing, but you haven't answered them, Secretary of State.
Well, you obviously don't have any questions actually about the substance. What is your question on the substance, Mr. Thomas?
Substantively, I would like to see the government release the text of this deal, as Parliament deserves to see. Now, the Secretary of State can chuckle and laugh and be evasive around the topic, but it's a serious issue.
I think he's looking even more mad than he normally does there, isn't he? Miliband? What's he on, eh? He's obviously taking something, which obviously we can't mention. Ben Pyle is here, however, who is an independent researcher and writer, net zero skeptic, as if we didn't know. What's going on with Miliband's eyes, by the way?
I think you might be right that he's on drugs. I can see that I've got a very close-up view of myself. I would advise the studio to pull out a bit. That's we've been having gremlins here at Me HQ this morning. I haven't been able to log on using my computer, so I'm holding my phone. Stop it! Don't zoom in. It's distracting. Just leave it out.
All right.
Right. Yeah, I think you've got a point when you say that stop it. It doesn't work. When Miliband may be on some kind of drugs. I think he's spoken a lot about how he's been he was sort of quite traumatized by his 2015 general election failure.
Yeah.
And then and I mean boo-hoo. Boo-hoo, you wanted to lead the entire country down this net zero road to hell, and then the British public in 2015 said, "Well, no thanks, mate." And then he scored the second worst general election result for a Labour leader in its whole history. So he then went into therapy, and I think what may have happened is that this therapist is instead of going, yeah, well, maybe you should reflect on your failure and do something else.
Yeah,
that therapist has encouraged in him the view that 40 million voters were wrong and he was right. And now we see this just almost pathological intransigence in him, unable to answer a question that, the public has a right to hear the answer to, probably wants to hear the answer to. And he just sort of, pretends like it's someone asking him an unreasonable question in a pub. Not an elected person asking him a question on behalf of 72 million other people. And you see the same kind of performance on the floor in the House of Commons when he's being interrogated by Claire Coutinho, his opposite. And not that I don't think she was all that much better actually, but she's beginning to understand what kind of mess she's been part of, and her party have been created. And Miliband, when he's answering her, he's got foam spraying out of his mouth. He's like a kind of religious nutter you used to get outside tube stations in South London, just sort of shouting and he doesn't know whether he wants to have a go at Claire Coutinho or Richard Tice and Nigel Farage more. It's like they're the demons that he's supposed to be exercising. So it's kind of I think there's definitely a piece missing.
There is.
And I think in a normal political environment, if we had a proper sort of functioning, healthy democracy through all of this, someone like Ed Miliband wouldn't have got where he is, because he didn't come up into politics through the normal process. You've got to go and press the flesh. You've got to stand as a councillor. You've got to have a lot of people behind you. You've got to build your armies apart from anything else. And you've got to prove that you can form a relationship with the public and that they're going to trust you, especially in those kind of constituencies. Instead, he was ambivalent about his own career. He says so on that horrible podcast with Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell. He said he didn't really know whether he wanted to go into, I don't know, I'm going to be a lawyer. I tried working in TV, and then I was like, maybe politics. So this is well into his 30s before he goes into politics. And he's a spoiled brat from Primrose Hill. And then he goes and he just gets an office job with a Labour minister, and then gets nicked, to be in Gordon Brown's cabinet. So then they go, would you like a safe seat? So all the people that have ever, had to go up through the Labour Party, which is supposed to be the sort of working class person's route to power.
Not anymore.
He's just exactly. He's just Red Prince dropped into this seat, and he's got no real connection to the public. And I don't think he's got any connection to anything within his brief, within energy or industry either. And so he's
about it, right? I mean, his main claim to fame, right, is that he started up this company which he's involved with, which he tries to make out as independent of him, which of course it isn't. And I think they're funneling money towards it as well. He set up GB Energy with old Jürgen, the German, who's a complete and utter moron, who doesn't employ anyone, doesn't actually even have an office, right? But apparently he's going to be funneling hundreds of millions of pounds through his company to give to other companies so that they can all make money off the taxpayers' expense. And you wouldn't be surprised to see Miliband walking up and down Oxford Street with a sandwich board on him going, the end is nigh, would you?
I wish it was, because then we'd get rid of him, if it was nigh. Yeah. NESO, I think the NESO, the National Energy Systems Operator, that used to be owned by the National Grid, but the government bought it under Ed Miliband as soon as they got elected, and that's the organisation that puts out loads of projections about how the energy system is going to work in 40 or 50, and I think they bought it because I think National Grid said you better buy it because we're not going to take the flak for this. So because this is
he now keeps warning us that if we don't do what he tells us to do, we're going to have blackouts and we're not going to have enough electricity to power up the old Audi Quattro or whatever it is. The guy's a maniac. There's a great super chat that just was up there a minute ago. Can we get it back, Pooch? Where somebody said that he reminds them of Dr. Frankenstein. Which is true. After he's gone completely doolally. That's from LTL. Yeah, morning, Mike. Great show as usual. Mad Ed reminds me of Dr. Frankenstein. Love the Heron Coasters. Cheers. Yeah, the trouble is, though, Ben, he is now the guy who is odds on if Starmer walks, which he's bound to do probably by May the 7th or the 8th. He's more than likely to become the next Prime Minister, believe it or not.
Yeah, and they're stupid enough to do it as well. They're the, they've got, I mean, their best mathematicians in the whole party are Rachel and Ed. And these are the people who've told us that there were, bills were going to come down by 150. And the only way that they could make that happen was Ed forcing Rachel to let him take £150 off the taxpayer instead, and then tell everyone that, look, your bills have gone down 150 quid. And so it looks like the Blairites are in absolute disgrace. The far left, in the form of the Corbynites, they've all sloped off. So it looks like it's going to be this soft left faction of the Labour Party, which has always loved Miliband. This sort of insipid, bland. I suppose they're the sort of Tory equivalents of the Wets. The Labour equivalents of the Tory Wets, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're sort of very managerial, very wonkish, very geeky, like Ed, but ultimately just completely with their heads in the clouds, committed to sort of weird ideologies that infect global institutions, which are shared by the likes of millions of ordinary people. And I think that really came out this week. And at the beginning of the week, Ed Miliband, Desnes, said that we're going to have community energy now, and we're going to have £1 billion fund for community energy. So everyone on your street wants to sort of set up a company and have wind turbines or solar panels, or a church might want to do it, or a mosque might want to do it. And there's this £1 billion that's available so that they can subsidise your community energy projects. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? This is a green leap forward. So Ed Miliband's plans for the future of energy is a bit like when Mao said that every village must have a steel furnace. And then what happened? Industry died, and so did tens of millions of people who in famine and worse. So I think he's got no real idea about what the grid will look like in the future, as long as it's green. And so I think he's sort of saying, well, if you get solar panels, and if your community gets a wind farm which it owns, in the same way that those Chinese villages owned their own steelworks, then you might be able to survive high energy prices. I'm not sure what. I mean, he's sort of grasping at straws at this point to rescue the agenda from its inevitable collapse. And pointing all this out in the background is that other unflushable Tony Blair, who's saying this net zero agenda isn't going to work. Yeah. And it's very tempting to say, look, Tony Blair says net zero isn't going to work. But what's Tony Blair's solution? Well, Tony Blair's solution is to go, well, never mind that all the steelworks that we had left are closing down. Let's buy our steel from China because it's cheaper anyway. And let's buy all the solar panels and stuff from China. And then we'll say, as part of this deal, China, would you mind setting up a few factories and investing a few £1 billion in here as well? So Tony Blair's solution to net zero failing is to open our economy more to China. And God knows what Ed Miliband's deal with China is at the moment, because he won't explain to anyone what he's committed us to.
Well, no, of course he won't answer the question. Ben, listen, good to talk to you. Thank you very much. He's kind of addicted to flying around the world as well. He's currently in California, we think, with Gavin Newsom, sort of mincing about, trying to make out that, they've got the answers to the world's problems. Absolutely incredible. Ben Powell there, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. We're going to speak in a moment to Will Geddes, who's here with us as well. Stuart says this, for the Mike Graham show. He says, Mike, maybe Millipede's on the Coke Zero. Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know. His eyes are certainly mad. And he's either that or crystal meth, something like that he's on. Who knows? Coming up, we're going to talk about Andrew, because he's on the front pages today. There's 8 forces now, police forces, looking into what Andrew was up to and whether or not his protection officers were actually not just protecting him from various problems that he might have had going on, but also whether they were actually keeping secrets and not informing police about what they might have known about law-breaking activities that might have been going on inside the royal households. We'll do all that coming up after this.
Why don't you relax and be a bit more MG? That would be a triumph.
So, here we are. It's the Mike Graham Show. It's 8:45. I don't know where the time goes, by the way. Right Said Fred are here. They're going to be talking to us after 9 o'clock about what they're up to, how they managed to get through the whole COVID-19. The last time we spoke, guys, I think it was during COVID, a long time ago. But I'm delighted to say the man of mystery is here, Mr. Will Geddes. How are you, man?
Morning, Beggs.
Very
I'm
good.
good.
To see
How are
you?
you?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Getting over a little bit of a cold, but other than that,
I heard,
not too bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of it about, isn't there? I mean, I keep getting in the car in the morning sneezing, thinking, when is this going to go away? I've had it since about November.
I know.
You know, it's not debilitating too much.
No,
but anyway,
it's not too bad, but yeah, it's miserable.
We get through it. It's part of this bloody weather. It's so awful. Isn't it?
Let's have a day without rain, shall we?
Would that be
That'd
nice?
Be nice.
Times this morning, 8th Force joins Epstein files investigation. The Sun front page, Andrew, what did the cops know? This is a question I was asking probably more than a week ago, because, of course, when we hear stories like, Jeffrey Epstein trafficked a woman to Buckingham Palace specifically to have some kind of sexual encounter with Andrew, I said, well, hang on a minute. Surely there must be people inside Buckingham Palace who would have known about that. And it's a bit difficult, really, isn't it, to smuggle Russian models in and out of a royal household without somebody else noticing?
Well, yes, but I mean, it's about the questions that are asked and answered, and that's the difference between sovereign security and private security. So private security, you have lots and lots of possible holes, because you're using hotels, you're using third parties that could potentially then leak information to the press, which is a constant consideration. But when you've got sovereign protection, looking after the royal family, it's all pretty much self-contained, Mike. So the PPOs, the Royalty and Specialist Protection Officers, of which a few of them work for me now since retiring, and I know a few guys who are still in, they will take their charge to that bubble of the palace or the royal household, and allow them then to be handed over to the Metropolitan Police Security, which then control that environment. So the actual PPOs themselves, personal protection officers, I wouldn't say, Mike, are necessarily the right people to be talking to. It's more the people in the royal households. And this is maybe where they're focusing their attention.
So what would be the difference? For example, and I don't know whether you know the answer to this, but say, for example, this woman appears, gets flown into Stansted Airport, we understand, because that's why Essex Police are now involved. Gets flown into Stansted Airport, gets picked up in a Range Rover, which may or may not belong to the royal family, gets driven into Buckingham Palace. Now, I don't know how many entrances there are. I imagine there's more than one. But say they don't go in the front entrance, so they go in a side entrance of some kind, maybe. But there's a wall all the way around, so I mean, I don't know where that would be. But say they drive in, she gets out of a car, goes in through a door. Presumably there's somebody behind that door who isn't Andrew.
Yeah. So there will be a number of different sort of gateways that they have to go through. So like you say, there's the perimeter, the main access gate, which will be guarded. And then obviously you get to the royal household, be met by an equerry or a member of the staff who will then escort them into their environment. Now, from what I understand, because the royal family will have a greater degree of politesse and sort of an inhibited behaviour. Don't ask questions because you probably don't want the answers. You know, this individual that may turn up will be simply, this is a guest. And as we understand, with some of these girls, they came in as Ms. or Mrs. Windsor. That was the term that they were referred to as. Which basically kept their names off the guest list, because inevitably there'll be a guest list of individuals that are anticipated, people who are going to be on site for various different reasons. So they'll be passed from one person to the other. And the one thing certainly I know in that environment, or certainly know of in that environment, is that no questions are asked about the reasons for their visit and the purpose of their visit. So
or the timing, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what will happen?
In the morning.
An emergency meeting of some importance, Mike. So they'll simply be passed through, and then all will happen is their name is logged, or the name that they're given is logged, and they move from one door to another, and then to Andrew's apartment, which will be his designated area, his living quarters, if you like. The doors will shut, and whatever happens behind those doors, Mike.
And there's nobody else back there, then, presumably. Because what the Sun's pages 4 and 5 say, police probing Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's ties to Jeffrey Epstein aims to find out just what his royal protection officers knew. The move comes after claims they may have willfully turned a blind eye during his visits to the pedo-financiers Caribbean islands. So they're also talking about not just people who would have come to visit him, but when he went to visit Epstein, because he would have presumably taken protection officers with him.
Yeah, I know. I've been in similar situations with notable people in the public eye, shall we call them, who have maybe had certain habits or activities which I wouldn't necessarily agree with, morally, ethically, or otherwise. And there's a kind of unspoken agreement to say, look, sir, ma'am, I don't particularly want to know what you're doing, and please don't do it in front of me because it's either incriminating civilly or criminally.
Would you mind putting that boy down? Or that sort of thing?
Steady on, Mike. It's still early.
Listen, I'm just posing a question, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, and again, a lot of principals won't actually put their security at a compromise by doing, you know, a rack of cocaine or whatever it might be.
Because I mean, if you were working on P. Diddy's, you know, party, you'd be.
I have a story about P. Diddy, which I'll save for another day.
You'd be saying that a lot, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, I could. To be honest, it's more the entourage with people like P. Diddy, but that's a story maybe we talk about off air.
Okay.
But yeah, the long and the short of it is the royalty and specialist protection guys. The one thing that Andrew would hopefully be conscious of, even if when they were travelling, staying in Epstein's house in New York or whatever, would be that they are still serving police officers and that they have warrant cards. Now, they do have a chain of command which they can report up to. And
I mean, are they required to put in a report every day or anything like that?
Yeah, there will be a there's generally always a subsequent deployment briefing or if you like, logs, which will be provided to say, this is what we did, this is where we went.
Right.
But again, the detail of some of those information. So if say I was taking someone into Epstein's house, and I was offered accommodation there, because of the size of the house, inevitably they're going to have separate staff quarters. I would be controlling the perimeter, the security about who's coming in, when they're coming in, and is someone coming in that shouldn't be coming in. But other than that, probably Epstein, Andrew and his friends were all doing their own thing in the main quarters, if you like, or the main living areas. So I wouldn't necessarily be witness to that sort of stuff or a party to that sort of stuff. There may be whispers that are passed amongst in-house staff, and I've certainly heard those sort of things in the past with other people. Nobody on the Epstein list I can add. But enough to say, yeah, it's a precarious line that you tread in the private sector, a little easier than it is for a police officer. And remember that there is a broader perspective of protection. Not just the principal, but the reputation of the royal family, which is why I think King Charles has turned around and said, we will fully cooperate with the police agencies to assist with their inquiries. I don't think Charles is going to be too shy about throwing him under the bus if he needs to.
Indeed. And what about their kind of responsibility, I suppose you would say, in terms of if they are approached by, for example, Essex Police, these characters, these individuals who are royal protection officers, are they duty bound by the sort of terms of their employment that they have to spill their guts and they have to say everything that they know? Or will they go, actually, I don't really remember?
Well, there is always that possibility that they could pull the I don't recall card. But again, what will intrinsically be looked at right now, Mike, is, as you rightly said, is going to be the logs. It's going to be the post-task briefing sheet of what actually happened, activity sheet. So that may be pulled intrinsically and forensically apart to basically say, okay, you were staying in the house in Manhattan at Epstein's house. What actually happened on day 1, day 2, day 3? What happened on this particular occasion? Because there's also a risk to those officers about whether they were actually doing their task appropriately and effectively. Because if they were hidden away in a corner or in a basement in the staff quarters, how could they positively react to a situation should something have happened? And that's not to say that in one of Epstein's infamous parties, and that Andrew may have been a guest to, there were other parties that the whole thing could have got completely out of hand, particularly if there were drugs involved or alcohol.
Looking at that picture, the famous picture that came out a couple of weeks ago of him sort of on all fours.
Doing the CPR,
in front of what looks like a woman who's maybe not conscious. It's not easy to tell. There would have been, presumably, police protection officers there? Or,
they would have
or
probably be in the
necessarily?
vicinity, but maybe not. I would have thought not in the room.
Yeah.
Again, they don't want to put themselves in an incriminating situation necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit of a three monkeys.
he's known to be pretty arrogant as a man, and he's known to be difficult to be around. So presumably he treats them not particularly well.
No, I mean, certainly everything I've heard is that he is very unpleasant to anybody who he believes is below his stature.
Right, which is basically everyone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, nice bloke that he is and all that.
Yeah.
And what about the police themselves? If they wish to, question him, is there a protocol for that in terms of how they would do it? Would they do what they would do with ordinary people who had put a tweet out, for example, that they didn't like? You could go around knocking on the door and go, "Excuse me," would they do that? Would they just turn up?
Yes.
And say,
I think it would be coordinated.
Hello,
It'd be
hello,
like
hello.
I think it'd be like any kind of inquiry that's or interview that's being requested. He would be asked to voluntarily present himself for interview.
Right.
Very likely, it's unlikely they would take him to a station. I've had a few principals, as you know, who hit the headlines.
Yeah.
They were invited in for interviews at police stations.
Right.
Next thing happens,
In their own
paparazzi
time.
everybody.
Right.
Yeah, the paparazzi are outside and because they want photographs of this person leaving the station. So I think it's highly likely they would do the interview in his own residence, away, privately, respectfully, to a certain degree. And inevitably that's going to be questioning him. As we saw with Emily Maitlis, he's not particularly convincing under interview or pressure, so that could be quite revealing in itself.
Yeah, indeed. And the National Crime Agency is now involved as well.
Oh, yeah.
How does that change things?
It changes things a lot because the NCA, I've got some very good friends there, and the NCA have so many different branches. Most people will recognise and know now that the NCA is kind of Britain's equivalent to the FBI. So they have strands into organised crime, they have strands into people trafficking, all sorts of organised crime and sophisticated international crime. So if Andrew was breaching certain laws, for example, when individuals were being trafficked into the UK allegedly, and they were being flown in on private jets, were the manifests being passed over to the appropriate authorities at Border Force?
Right.
Were these individuals suitably documented? And again, if they were documented coming in, when were they leaving as well?
Right.
So again, there's timestamps that should be able to be interrogated now by the police to say, okay, we have Ms. X or Ms. Y who's arrived in country. When did they arrive? When did they return? And then what were they doing? Where were they staying?
Right.
In the same way as, when we go to the United States, and they'll say, okay, what hotel, or any country for that matter, what hotel
Where
are
are
you
you staying?
at?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we don't really do that, do we? I mean, in terms of like on a regular sort of basis when people come into Britain. Or
Not if you're coming on a dinghy. No.
Not if you're coming on a dinghy, for sure. But also, what about the word trafficking? If, for example, a woman is sent here by Epstein who comes willingly to go and sleep with Andrew or somebody else, is that trafficking?
Well, it depends on whether that was done under some duress and what age were they, for starters?
Right.
Were they above 18 or were they a minor? Their name, their passport, their nationality will have been documented by Border Force, one would hope, regardless of whichever airport they came into, which I believe in the most instance was Stansted.
Was Stansted, on a private jet,
So once they actually come in, so even if you do use private and you fly private jets, you're not exempt from the same protocols that we would have coming into Heathrow or Gatwick or Manchester or any other.
Because a lot of people have asked this question, and certainly we were talking to Stephen Barrett, the barrister, earlier on in the week, who said that he thinks this is all a bit of a distraction, that Andrew isn't necessarily the point of the story, that Epstein was clearly up to no good in all manner of different ways in America. Was Andrew simply just sating his lust? Was he simply having fun with some women who were quite happy to have fun with him? And therefore, what's the problem? It might not be very tasteful, and it might not be particularly recommended for somebody who's got a high profile, but is he really breaking the law?
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
not.
you're right. I mean, it's an exceptionally good point, and it depends on whether the individual came on their own, whether they came with a chaperone, who that chaperone was. Is that chaperone connected to other criminal activities? And again, this is where the NCA comes in joining up those dots of various different personalities and individuals. And what they'll be doing is looking at who's involved. Now, and again, it will come down to complicitness. I'm no lawyer, Mike, but I would say, complicitness by Andrew as to whether he was fully aware that an individual was being brought to him, whether it be someone who was going to be financially remunerated or someone who was doing it under duress.
Right.
And again, it will be the differentiation between the two. And again, who was paying for it?
Yeah.
Again, there's the whole massive question about Epstein, the purposes and motivations behind what he did.
Right.
And was it to obtain compromat on people in high positions?
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me the more likely area of investigation in terms of what they can prove will be his willingness to share secret documents and private emails from the Department of Trade while he was a trade envoy, because that is an offence under the Official Secrets Act, apart from anything else, isn't it?
I mean, I would have thought the law enforcement
and much easier to prove.
Yeah, I mean, I think what would be interesting is to see whether those individuals, those women or children that were brought over, whether they were used as mules, for example. You know, they could be used as, for example, couriers of information. So rather than necessarily compromising telephone, email, various standard means that we would communicate with people not within vicinity. Whether those individuals were provided with packages, with documents, with information that went back to Epstein. So this is pretty big investigation, as you can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely right. Fascinating. Keir Starmer's just put this out on his Facebook page, I think. As Director of Public Prosecutions, I saw firsthand the unimaginable trauma violence against women and girls causes. Halving this horrific violence is deeply personal to me, and as Prime Minister, I'm doing everything in my power to end it. That's why my government is taking urgent action against chatbots and nudification tools. I mean, do you not have anything better to do? And today we're going further. We are putting social media companies on notice to take down any non-consensual intimate images within 48 hours. I know there's more to do. Violence against women and girls has no place in our society. We must root it out. So just retweet that picture of him in a bikini, because it's quite funny. So this is all going to end badly for Andrew, isn't it?
It's not going to end well. I mean, my prediction, Mike, is he's going to up sticks. He'll be pushed off with probably a stipend of some sort to maybe the UAE or somewhere remote, maybe one of the stands. And
Chagos Islands,
Chagos Islands would be a good option.
We could have a vote, actually, with Chagos Islands, Rikers Island, Alcatraz, or the Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, or Easter Island.
Or Easter Island, well, those big faces, amazing. Yeah. Super. Well, listen, Will, good to see you.
Mike, thanks for having me.
You're hanging around for Plank of the Week, I
am indeed, sir.
Which we're going to do in a
Great
little while.
nominations.
Some very good nominations.
Optimistic about winning.
Yeah, are you? Wow. Blimey. I don't know where you got that from. A couple of comments for you. Let's have a look. There's a couple of good super chats that have come in, I think. The news on Mandelson seems to have stopped, and all the focus is on Andrew. Mount Anything. That's an interesting name for him. Nathan says, another amazing show. Smash that like button, share the show, drop a follow if you haven't yet. So much thanks for your support. That would be great. Hey, why don't you have Andrew on the show, Mike?
Brilliant.
Well, because we can't find him. He's gone to the ground, I'm afraid. And one more. What does Will think about Mandelson? Yeah, Mandelson is. We were told a couple of maybe 10 days ago that the police were going to sort of move in and maybe, arrest him, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're not going to do it. I would say they're gathering everything they possibly can so they make sure it sticks with the Crown Prosecution Service. My prediction, Mike, I'll put my 10p on the table. I think he's going to jail.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, he's another one who's banked to rights, isn't he?
Yeah,
I mean, we
absolutely.
know that in 2009 he was passing documents which were sensitive, Treasury-related, and could possibly be used to make financial gain by somebody outside the government.
I mean, I looked into it. He's broken not only the Official Secrets Act, which he would be bound by, but also the National Security Act. So, he's banged to rights, as you rightly say, and I think.
And there's a paper trail. And it's not like he can ignore it. Anyway, Will, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, Right Said Fred are here. We'll find out what they're up to. And somebody told me Macy Gray's just done a cover of their famous song, I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt. But we'll find out about that in a minute. We can't play it, though, because YouTube will ban it from being used. But anyway, let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Good morning. In major political news, US President Donald Trump has dramatically reversed course, warning Prime Minister Keir Starmer not to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, calling it a big mistake, and stressing the strategic importance of the Diego Garcia military base, especially amid potential US action on Iran. This comes just after apparent US backing for the deal. Keir Starmer is the big mistake in my opinion. Economically, UK inflation dropped to 3% in January, its lowest in nearly a year, thanks to cheaper petrol and bread, though it remains above the bank's 2% target and boosts hopes for future interest rate cuts. If you believe that you'll believe anything. Have you seen the price of Vaseline nowadays? The government has announced tough new rules. Tech firms must remove non-consensual intimate image, revenge porn within 48 hours, or face fines up to 10% of global revenue, or service blocks. Phew. I must have cost Google a fortune. Elsewhere, heavy rain continues, with one Cornish village likely recording 50 straight days of it, while retailers warn of job cuts amid rising costs. And the IFS criticises the government's fiscal rules as dysfunctional. That's your UK headlines roundup. Stay tuned for more updates. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Edward Hughes with the news. We have Edward Hughes doing the news because it sounds like Hugh Edwards. And he's a bit like Hugh Edwards, right? He's got a slight Welsh lilt, and we have to every occasionally tell him he can't send any text messages while he's doing the news, because that's not allowed.
No, absolutely not.
Because obviously there's a bit of a problem with
Yes.
that. Right, Ed Fredder here.
Hi, Mike.
Very, very warm welcome to you. Great to see
Thank you.
This is lovely. I haven't seen you guys, I don't think, since COVID.
No.
No. Because I don't. You probably remember maybe what year it was. Was it 2020, 21, something like that?
What? One of those two.
One of those two.
Yeah,
when it was all a bit mad, wasn't it? And,
it went very. It was completely mad.
Some of us went, this is all bollocks.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then nobody heard from you ever again.
No.
And that was the end of. That was the end of
We were
that.
gagged.
Yeah.
We were gagged. Yeah.
It's extraordinary. And I mean, we were just talking there about Macy Gray doing "I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt," and you were saying, they'll put her on Radio 2 singing your song, but they won't put you on.
No,
but there was a band at Glastonbury who did Deeply Dippy as an encore, but they won't have us.
The Glastonbury won't have us.
Glastonbury won't have
No,
it.
no.
Why not?
I don't know.
Is it because they think that you're sort of mad right-wing fascists?
Yes, they think we do some sort of goose step.
Right, or is it because they think that because you didn't like the jabs and the masks and the lockdown?
That's part of it. Yeah,
some of that.
But why does that make you right-wing? I've never understood that.
It doesn't. Actually.
It does.
You know?
I think it's that if you're not in the club, we were talking about this the other day. The first sign was in 1992. We went to the Brits.
Right.
We got invited, but we weren't. I think we were nominated for something ridiculous. But we were in 91, 92, number one in America, number one in the UK with album and single, and about another 70 odd countries.
Right.
And the Brits ignored us. They just ignored us.
Right.
And I think at that point we thought, well, we're not in the club. We're an independent band.
And that was so that wasn't anything to do with politics.
That was 92. That was just to do with we're not in the BPI club.
Okay.
BPI was a British Phonographic Institute. We're not in that.
Okay.
So if you're not in their little blob, you're.
And was that because you didn't have the same kind of representation, or you didn't have the right agent?
Yeah,
or
exactly
the right
that.
label and all that.
Yeah. With I'm Too Sexy, we didn't have a record label. It was released without a deal.
Okay.
So and Kenny Everett and Richard were friends for a while, and Kenny said the UK music industry will never forgive you. Because you've proven them wrong.
For being successful.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible? It's very British, that, isn't it?
It is.
It is really
Well, we don't get it anywhere else.
Yeah.
No other country.
No, because, it's so clubby here, isn't it? And
It's
it
very
really
cliquey.
annoys me about the way that there's so many kind of delineations of whether it's class.
Yeah.
You go to some. I mean, I've for some reason relatively recently, I keep finding myself in these private men's clubs in London, full of sort of hooray Henry types.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, this is a completely different world. It's
completely-
really
it is,
weird.
it is.
I know.
And I would never be invited into it normally. It's only
No.
because now what I do, I know a few political people and all that. But the whole kind of the structure of Britain has never really changed, has it? I mean, look at Andrew.
No.
I mean, Andrew
exactly.
doing what he's been doing for years and years
I
and
know.
years. Nobody's ever said anything.
No.
I mean, there must be, and Mandelson and all of that, people must know stuff.
It's looked the other way,
Right.
isn't it?
With the royal family, I wonder whether since the Queen went, the whole thing seems to have imploded.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah,
Don't you
and
think?
it makes you wonder what she knew.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She was keeping the lid on.
Because that's the other thing, is that I've said to people before, if she gave Andrew a load of money to pay off this woman,
That's
Virginia
right.
Giuffre.
12 million, wasn't it?
Yeah. What did she think he'd done? You go. I mean, my mother didn't have much money, but if I'd gone to her and said, "Look, can I have some money?"
Yeah.
Why? Well, there's this woman who's claimed I've shagged her and she was underage,
Yeah.
and we just want to pay her off.
Yeah.
Okay, then. I mean, my mother would have gone,
No,
"What?
I know,
Yeah.
What are you thinking about?"
I know. It's exactly the same.
I agree. Our mum,
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I also, but the raw, the history. I read quite a lot about the history, obviously the molecule in it a lot, and it is just conquering, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
all royal families is one conquering over the other. That's
And
what
it's
this
and
is.
it does now seem just kind of ridiculous, doesn't it?
It does seem ridiculous.
And time sometimes is a great healer, isn't it? Because even now you look at William, and everyone goes, "Oh, William's great." Kate, and you go, "Well, actually, why should he be there? Why should he suddenly be strolling around outside Buckingham Palace and painting it with I was going to swear there. With sort of forestry and stuff, and going, we should all be very green. Well, you've got a helicopter.
I know. Private jets.
No worries for you.
I know. Well, it's a bit like the Zuckerberg boat, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's this massive ocean-going thing. Yeah. And they
bit like him.
Bit like
ocean-going.
Massive ocean-going thing.
That's our Facebook account's gone.
Exactly. Do you remember when the Queen, some years ago, she said there are dark powers. She implied there was something beyond.
Dark forces.
Dark forces.
Well, what was that? That was Burrell who said that, though, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
I think it was Burrell who said it was Diana. It was Burrell who I've never quite believed everything that he came out with, because all of his conversations took place with Diana when there was nobody else in the room, and she's dead. So you kind of go, she's also a Nottingham Forest supporter. Oh, really? So I've never been quite sure about that. But I mean that's kind of what Harry's been infected by, isn't it? Because Harry is kind of obsessed with his mother's death. Thinks that she was killed off by either his grandfather or somebody else. Nobody really knows.
I mean, as a son or grandson, that would be a weird feeling, wouldn't it? I think my family's knocked off my mum.
Yeah, it would. And the trouble is, with all this Epstein stuff, right?
That would be pretty weird.
All of the things that people would say, well, no, it's not. That doesn't happen. There's not a cabal of very rich, wealthy people having sex with children and running the world. No. That's not happening. And you're going, hang on. And I'm not really that conspiracy minded, but clearly there's an awful lot of people involved in some really, really bad stuff.
There's some really odd stuff going on.
And what are they trading? Like what was Mandelson trading? He was obviously trading secrets from the government. He
did the whole thing with mortgage fraud, didn't he, years ago?
Well, he had to resign twice, right?
Yes, that's right.
And I mean, the funny thing was that apparently he met Epstein after the second time he'd been fired. Right. In 2002, he got fired in about 1998, I think, for the mortgage fraud. Jeffrey Robinson loaned him a load of money and he forgot about it.
As you do.
And then he got a passport for the Hinduja brothers.
Oh, that's
from that.
That's right.
And he got fired again, but he was still in Downing Street when he was talking to. So they literally. I mean, I know people will think I'm trying to make some kind of illusion here, but he literally walked out the front door, came back in the back door, not for the first time. And, boom, boom. And here he was in the heart of government, having had to resign. So he was still there.
Exactly.
Sitting next to Blair, and I don't think he's ever left. No, I think he's been. So he was in there all the way through Blair's years, all the way through Brown's years. Selling secrets, making money. How's he got a £12 million house in?
Well, this is true. It's part of the Rothschild estate, isn't it? Is that right?
I don't know. I used to live in near Regent's Park Road when I first came back from America. Didn't own it. I just rented it. And those houses are amazing there. And the word is that it actually might have been bought for him by Epstein. He might not have actually paid for it. This guy might have just bought it for him.
Right.
And you just think,
I don't know anybody
this
like
stuff has been going. Yeah, I don't.
No one's ever bought
fancy buying me a house. Yeah, but you'd have to sleep with me.
I'll pass on that.
I just. You just think there's clearly a cabal of people who have been getting very rich.
Yes. Yeah.
And Tony Blair's another one.
He's
suddenly a
never
multi-millionaire.
He's never left number 10, that guy.
No. And they're all the same. Now, Jonathan Powell, the guy who was his chief of staff, who's the guy who's responsible for the Chagos Islands debacle. Anyway, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
No.
What are you guys up to?
Well,
hey? Sorry?
Nice comment. What comments you got?
Oh, okay, let's have a look. Pooch is going to put some comments up.
Anything on my shirt?
Yes.
Brilliant morning, Richard and Fred. There you go. Loving the shirt. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, so it is a great shirt, actually. Yeah. It is great.
Thick.
Did they do Mellow Yellow, and who did it first?
Donovan did it.
Donovan did it first.
I remember Donovan.
Great song.
Great song.
Underrated songwriter. Great songwriter.
It's actually, I've got a few Donovan songs that kind of pop up from time to time.
Yeah,
There's
they're
some
great.
really great
Really
ones.
good,
Yeah,
yeah.
really nice
Season of
voice.
the Witch. Fantastic.
Season of the Witch, brilliant.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
good song.
Love Right Said Fred. So, I mean, are you able to perform? One more. The Freds were present for most of the marches, COVID in London from the start, intelligent in the street. I remember that. Because remember the cops used to turn up and sort of crack people's heads.
They did.
They
One thing we saw, we didn't notice this, but somebody else pointed out. We went to Oxford when it was the what do they call it? This 15-minute city thing.
Oh yeah.
And Antifa turned up. A few Antifa people. And then
Who are those people?
Well, this is interesting.
Point.
What was interesting? These people. Somebody said, "Have you noticed their boots?"
Oh yeah.
So I said, "No." And he said, "Well, these are police boots.
Same boots as the coppers.
So same boots.
Really?
Same boots as the coppers.
That's the sort of thing that coppers would do. That's stupid, right? No, just take the uniform off. What about the boots? The boots are fine.
Yeah, the boots were they were identical. I should have taken a photo. They were identical.
Apparently.
I spotted it.
But we went to the demonstration mainly because I'd never been to one.
Right.
So I just wanted to see what it was like. The first one I went to was the Iraq thing.
Yes.
And I just stood on the outskirts at Trafalgar Square just to watch.
And Bilderberg we went to.
Bilderberg.
In Copenhagen.
Yeah, we went outside the hotel there.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it's curiosity that drives us to do it. But then what happened was Piers Morgan threw his toys out the pram when we did one demo.
Mark Ruffalo. There's a few that got very upset.
Ruffalo. I know.
Sorry. Excuse my language. 30 years.
I mean,
just do a bit of acting.
Yeah, get on with it, mate.
Yeah.
Your last Paul Yorick, because he obviously thinks of himself as some great Shakespearean figure.
He does, yes,
absolute wanker.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But you're right.
Yeah.
And so we had, we were slagged off by a few people. Daily Mail got on our backs.
Yeah.
And then
why though? On what basis?
Well, we grew up at a time in the UK when we thought having a different opinion was kind of cool.
Yeah.
You could just have an opinion and somebody else would say I don't agree and everything was fine. And then during the Brexit thing, what we both began to notice was that having a different opinion was highly controversial.
Yes.
If you want to leave, you were a gammon and you were a jingoistic fascist and blah blah. If you were pro-Romania, you were terribly good. You were tree-hugging liberal. Blah blah. Ramonas. So. That's when we noticed that it was all getting a little bit, the nuance was gone. It was either left or right. And I think we're like that now in the UK, very sadly.
About everything.
About everything. And it's very, very sad, I think. We've lost, and I think it's part of my thing is that it comes from the top.
Yeah.
It all comes from the top. If you've got the guy at the top playing division politics, which is what I think Starmer is doing, then you can't expect people to go.
Well, he's another one, isn't he? I mean, because his entire kind of political journey, if you like, has been on the left. It's never been anything else. And yet, he doesn't appear to have any kind of sort of guiding principles because he's a liar, right? He's a kind of activist, if you want. He went to that Czech Republic.
That's right, when he was a kid.
Communist camp, didn't he?
That's right, yeah.
But he obviously genuinely believes that, doing things. I mean, like the Chagos Islands thing is typical of him. You could have sent people to jail for 3 years for going back to their homeland, right? But
at the same time,
if you come here from Eritrea or Sudan, you get a hotel. It's just bizarre.
It is extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed it as well in kind of what we would call the mainstream media when I was working at Talk, and the building was full of these kids and people who would kind of look at you and go, crikey, it's Mike Graham. You're going to live with him. He's that racist, bigot. We just talk about migrants all the time.
Yeah.
Harper Collins, right, which was upstairs, actually downstairs from us, on 2 floors, was full of these people who, none of them came into work for 18 months. I was going in every day, right, because doing the show, and didn't see any of these characters. Right. When they came back, they all were like, I was in a lift with them. Wasn't it amazing to be back at work? I'm like, I'm bloody left. What's wrong with you? And then they said they didn't like the fact that they used to transmit my show during 10 to 1.
How dare they?
Right? They actually said it's upsetting us, because all he does is talk about migrants. So they did put Virgin on instead. Listen to music.
Well, tell Graham about Mike about what Marina said about that nurse who had a bit of a breakdown when she was told to.
Yeah, my daughter's a doctor. And there was a junior doctor, and she was overseeing her. And she said, what I want you to do is phone this number. This is what you say. Right. It's the pharmacy. You just say this. They'll understand. You don't have to elaborate on this at all. I've written it down for you. This is the number. Here's the phone. Right. Can you please call them? I can't do that.
She got a panic attack.
I can't do that.
What? Because didn't
Because
want
it's
to make
a phone call, yeah.
And we had a...
Can we send a sort of text or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
I said, no,
They
you
don't
need
like
to
phones.
you need to phone these people.
Yeah.
You are training to be a doctor. You need to phone these
Right.
people and speak to them. It's a pharmacy.
Right.
You'll have to do it. You'll have to do it many times in your
Yeah.
career.
There's a local restaurant where we are, and they hired a new waitress.
Yeah.
Empty restaurant, so it's just during the day, lunchtime, nobody there. And they say to this girl, this is how you lay the table.
Right.
No napkins, and no tablecloths. It's
Right.
just napkins, paper napkins,
Glasses.
knife and fork, glass of wine.
Yeah.
That's it, or empty glass.
Right.
So they say, leave her to it. Comes back about 20 minutes, true story. Comes back 20 minutes later, I can't do this. I can't.
There's no one in the restaurant.
There's no
Empty
one in the
restaurant.
There's- I can't. It's just too stressful. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't.
She left.
and it's too complicated. I can't do it. Yeah.
I was at the rugby the other week, right? The England-Wales game, and we were in the hospitality bit, and there was this lovely girl who was the waitress. She couldn't do it. She literally didn't know it. She said, so how many of you are having this? What starter do you want? I said, well, there's only one starter because it's a set menu.
Set menu, right.
There's no choice.
No.
So you're either having the starter or you're not having it.
Yeah.
I said, that's. She said, is that the lamb? I'm like, no, that's the. It's a kind of a pork. It's an Iberico pork thing. Oh, right, okay. And what about the main course? I said, well, we're all going to have lamb. Oh, right, okay then. And she was sort of writing it down, but she clearly nobody had spoken to her presumably about this is how. But I'm thinking, surely you've been in a restaurant.
Yeah.
You must have ordered in a restaurant at some point.
Was what your
couldn't
parents
get
do.
it right.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just thought,
I know.
these people are completely useless.
They are useless. Yeah. We offered a UK tour earlier, but late last year. They said, "Do you want to do a run in 2026?" We said, "Okay, what have you got in mind?" They said, "Well, before we go any further, we need a guarantee that you're not going to say anything else." So I said, "What do you mean?"
Also, another guy said, "Can you write me an email confirming that you're not fascist?"
Yes. So we had two.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously that would mean you're not fascist.
If you write it.
Yeah.
So we had one at the festival in Germany, which the guy was called. I went back and said, "We're not writing anything." He said, "Great." He said, "I didn't want you to, but the sponsors wanted you to."
Right.
So he said, "Fine." He said, "Great." And we did the festival. It was really successful. And then we were off this promoter for the UK. He said, "Yeah, I need somebody saying you're not going to say anything else." I said, "What do you mean say anything else? Have an opinion, you know?" He said, "Yeah, it'll be a bit difficult." Well, we're not doing your tour then. Go away.
It's ridiculous.
It is, yeah.
So, I mean, have you found it more difficult, to exist as a band, or not really?
Well, we got really lucky. I mean, in all fairness, we were lucky because we got songs interpolated by Taylor Swift, then Drake, then Beyonce.
Okay.
And
it's quite handy, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is.
And what do you get for that, without wishing to pry?
Well, we're co-writers.
So you get a kind of
so we get paid as writers. We got paid very well.
Nice.
So when the industry and everything stopped, almost just us, everything stopped, and then suddenly Taylor Swift, and it was almost like a hidden hand came in and went, "Yeah, you're going to be all right."
Yeah.
And
that's nice of her, isn't it?
Well, exactly.
She was actually her people, as they say.
They were lovely.
Yeah,
send us flowers.
Well, somebody was telling me, I can't remember if it was an American comedian or something, that Taylor Swift spent her entire career, singing these kind of very angsty songs about how hard it is to be with a man because he's horrible, and now she's basically shagging a footballer, who is about as male as you can get.
Yes, exactly.
She's given up on all that kind of.
Yes, exactly. They're getting married, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah. Travis Kelce.
She was a country artist first.
She was.
Yes, she was.
She was. I think she's very talented, actually.
Yeah, I think
people, don't like her for her. I mean, that's the other thing that I object to is from both sides.
Yeah.
They, don't like Taylor Swift because she told people to vote for Joe Biden.
No,
Who cares?
exactly.
I don't care what she says.
No,
I mean, if she
right.
wants people to vote for Joe Biden, fair enough.
Well, people said to me, because I love Frank Sinatra. People say to me, but he was close to the mafia.
Yeah.
So?
I think he was in the mafia, actually.
Possibly true.
Yeah.
He made great records.
He's a great singer, I don't care.
It's like
there is that thing, isn't there, where people go, well, Picasso used to beat women up.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he did. I don't know. It
I wasn't there.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I quite like some of his paintings. I don't like that many of them.
It's a bit like the Eric Gill thing above the big
Yeah.
isn't it? Let's take that down because apparently he was a paedophile.
I mean, I think the BBC would be better concentrating on the paedophiles in the
Yes,
building
in the
as opposed to the
building.
one that's got a statue
Yeah,
outside.
the concrete
who's
one
actually
outside.
not doing anything.
Yeah.
Maybe go after the ones inside.
that would be a good plan.
Like Hugh Edwards.
Yes.
Maybe stop paying his bleeding pension.
Well, we're paying it, aren't we?
Yeah,
I know.
absolutely.
That is mental.
Absolutely shocking.
Good Lord.
I love the idea that he was texting people though while he was reading the news. This is why we have Edward Hughes to we have to keep reminding him every now and again.
What?
Yeah. He was texting this boy while he was on the news.
I didn't know he was.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Let's have a bit of film, and then he'd be like, sending pictures of his arse.
Quick photo.
Quick picture. All right then.
Yeah, let me just get that.
Hey? Have you? Okay. All right. Far right said Fred.
Oh no, we've heard
You
that.
must have had that before, because I haven't.
Yeah.
So
and also the Sun did the thing. Reich said Fred.
Oh, that's all right. Reich said Fred brought joy to the world. Happy music for a sad world. Great common sense guys who are prepared to swim against the tide. Respect. Yeah. Again. You shouldn't have to swim against the tide, right?
No, you shouldn't. No. It's like when you see some artists say, "I don't want Trump supporters listening to my music." What?
Yeah.
What?
It's like Springs. I used to love Bruce Springsteen, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually going against what I just said because I saw him when he put The River out, 1980. Right in the centre. Great album, great show, and he played forever. He did about 3 hours. There was no support or anything.
Yeah.
Went there with my now ex-wife, who was a big fan, American. Not of you. Not of me. Harsh. Thanks. Harsh. Not anymore. Anyway, but then he got into this thing with Born in the USA. He wouldn't let George Bush use it, and then he wouldn't let Trump use any of his music and all of that. And you just kind of go, I'd just let him use it. What's the problem? Why cause a row about it?
Also, I'm not sure you can stop. We've got a new single out called "Raise Your Hands," and there's been some interest from different people using it, and I'm not sure unless they actually request approval. I'm not sure you can stop them just playing it at an event.
Right.
I'm not sure you can.
I think Dream had a problem with the Labour Party playing things can only get better.
Oh, really?
I think they had a problem with that.
I thought they sort of were very happy about it.
Oh, were they? Well, maybe because Blair was hot at the time,
he was
wasn't
hot
he?
at the time, yeah.
Maybe they were right. Yeah. I don't know.
Brian Cox, he's blocked me on Twitter, Brian Cox.
Has he really?
Because he's a Ramona.
I know he is,
and I had a go at him for something years ago.
Right.
They've all blocked me.
Yeah.
And look at the sky. I couldn't care less.
No, I know. We had that Sleaford mob.
My life. Who are they?
And Rage Against the Machine with all the masks on.
Yeah.
Do you know the funniest one that I had was actually the Pogues, because remember when they came out and the Pogues decided they didn't like the lyrics to Fairy Tale of New York.
Oh, okay.
And this was about
Great
3 or
song.
4 years ago. Great song, right? You scumbag, you maggot, you cheap lousy faggot. There you go, just said it. Which is quintessential, right, to the song.
Yeah.
And anyway, they redid the lyric because they thought it was a bit offensive, right, because it had the word faggot in it, right?
Right.
So I went on Twitter and was like, this is bloody ridiculous, because I think they had 2 versions. I think Radio 1 played the original version and like blocked it out.
Right.
And then they played the new version on Radio 2
Right.
because that was a bit more, user-friendly. The Pogues blocked me because I was arguing on their behalf. They disagreed with me, and I was going, this is ridiculous, this is a great song. What are you changing the words for?
Yeah.
And then they said, no, but we don't want your support because you're a horrible racist right-wing bigot.
Years ago, I had an American friend who was over here visiting, and at the time there were huge adverts for meatballs, which are known as faggots, as you know.
Yeah.
And but he didn't know that.
Right.
So he was walking around. He said, "This country is so liberal." Because he'd seen signs saying, "Have you tried a faggot lately?"
I've actually got a recipe book.
Funny enough, he had. Yeah.
I've got a recipe book which has got faggots in it.
of course.
And you can still buy them. There's a supermarket down in Sussex where I go, and you can buy them frozen faggots. Frozen. You're going to be careful how you handle those.
Fancy frozen.
Back to Peter Bandelson. But yeah. So what are you up to? Are you doing shows at the moment?
Yeah, we're busy writing. We're talking. Got an interest in Japan on the track, and the guys just remixed it, sounding really, really good. And we've got gigs coming up starting in June.
Oh, okay. May.
Yeah, May.
We've got some promo.
Should we get these guys involved in the old Shepherd's Bush scenario?
Yeah, that'd be good.
What do you think? We're doing a show in Shepherd's Bush at the Shepherd's Bush Empire.
Oh, okay.
In May. Fancy coming?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Bring a guitar and all that.
Yeah, bring a guitar and all that.
A bit of tap dancing.
Bit of tap dancing.
Plate spinning.
Yeah, bit of plate spinning. We were funny enough, we were just talking about that earlier because Pooch said it to a couple of younger guys who were in this morning and they didn't know what he was talking about.
Oh, right.
They'd never heard of plate spinning.
Really? No.
Yeah.
That was a
they
thing.
didn't know.
That was a thing.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. That there was somebody who actually used to spin the bus.
That is an extraordinary gig,
And
isn't
the
it?
skill was you had to keep them all together.
Yeah.
There are dozens
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you mentioned Kenny Everett there, I mean, what a genius
Oh,
he was.
Kenny
You
Everett.
know, when
Brilliant.
you think back to what
Absolutely
he did
brilliant, yeah.
before anybody else did it.
Yeah, and that leg thing.
Yeah.
Legs.
And you know that kind of General Blunderbuss,
Yeah.
huge kind of
course.
the huge
Yes.
jacket.
Didn't cannons come out of the
It was just brilliant. You know, all of the best possible taste.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I do worry. I mean, we talk about this all the time about TV and how awful it is and how there's nothing to watch.
No, there's not. I don't watch any TV.
Even if you find a show that you used to watch, it's so bloody woke. I mean, everything I see now, there's a dwarf in it. Now, I'm sorry, I mean, it's nothing personal, but, you know, there's Vera, there's a dwarf, right? And no, but I'm going, why?
Yeah,
I know.
Why does it have to be dwarf in it?
Have you seen? They're making a movie about Joan of Arc, and it's a black girl.
It's not.
Of course it is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a black girl.
Well, they did Anne Boleyn as black.
Yes,
didn't
I
they?
know.
You know,
I know. Imagine
Fred's
if that
wife
was
is black, so it's not a problem.
Yeah.
But can we be?
It drives my wife mad.
Yeah,
Drives
she
my
hates.
wife.
She hates.
Well, it's like it's not dwarf.
Yeah.
You know, here's the Joan of Arc, you know, setting fire to her. And don't need so many matches now. It's only that's all. I don't know. Anyway, listen, we've reached the end of the show already. It's 9:30.
Where's the tour and where can we get?
Yeah, where can people see you?
Shows online at rightsaidfred.com.
Okay.
And new singles breaking on the Heritage Chart, and that go to our Twitter feed at the Freds.
Yeah.
And you can vote for it or download it or save it or whatever.
Great.
And it's called Hands.
No,
Raise your hands.
Raise your hands.
Raise your hands. Okay.
Yeah, get the song title right.
Brilliant. Raise your hands.
Get the song title right.
Yeah, try. Yeah, just only
Too sexy.
You got one job.
Too sexy.
Yeah, brilliant. You get free bumper sticker as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Listen, there's probably things we didn't do, Pooch, are there?
Heron of the day, quickly.
Hey?
Heron of the day.
Oh, let's get Heron of the Day. Yeah, go on. Is it Emma's one again? Yeah, Emma's. My daughter's in Dubai and she sees this heron every day. We've got a lot of herons here.
I know, yeah.
The heron thing started because when I got fired and I was kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do next, I lived down by the river. And I walked out of the house one morning and there was this giant heron.
I saw you say that earlier.
A giant heron on the railings, right? It's about this big.
They are big birds.
And I thought, that's a bit weird. And I sort of looked at I became sort of fascinated by it and I looked it up. And it said that herons in kind of various different cultures are kind of harbingers of good things, and it sort of means that, you know, you've got new beginnings and all of that.
Yeah.
And then the mother of my children sent me a message to say, maybe your mother sent it to look after you or something like, you know, it was all a bit, you know, I mean, it all sounds a bit, you know, hippy-dippy. But, and then suddenly about 2 weeks later, I saw it again. And it was back. And I've never seen it since.
No,
it came twice in November.
Right.
All right.
And I thought, this is obviously a good omen of some kind of
absolutely.
So I rang Pooch up and said, we better start a channel. And so we did.
I saw the clip with Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yes.
Who was very informative.
And he was
about
really
that.
interested. So people have been sending them in, and we've got some lovely herons there, apart from the crane, which was sent in by Tom. Which is not a heron. But so, and so we've got heron, you know, now people are sending in heron, you know,
I didn't know this.
coasters.
Oh, great. It's cool.
So it's become a kind of symbol of the show.
Yeah,
you know?
And they have their sort of message. The heron's message is new beginnings. Right? Is it?
It is.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Apparently so.
Well, as Jacob said, with the crane, with delivering the child.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course. Oh, yes. I hadn't thought
And
of
we
that.
got a lot of really good names when we asked for people to give us a name for the heron. And our favourite was Heron Mirren.
That's very good. Actually.
Yeah.
The old Fraser Crane.
Anyway,
Fraser Crane.
Fraser Crane. I like it. Very good.
Very
Boom.
good. Boom,
These
boom.
guys are terrific. We'll have to have them back. Anyway, listen.
Heron of the day, quickly then.
What do you want?
Heron of the day.
Oh, sorry. I thought you'd done it already.
No.
Which my daughter takes a picture of. There it is.
Oh, wow.
And there's another one in the background as well.
There is, yeah.
They eat the fish, you see. That's what they like.
Right.
Anyway.
Where are they indigenous to? Are they indigenous to?
They're all over the world.
All over the
We've
world.
had people sending them in from the Seychelles. People just see them wherever they're on holiday.
Okay.
And they fly.
No, really? It's a school day every day.
Listen, excellent. Anyway, listen, great to see you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Right,
Thank you,
Fred.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. And of course, we've had a tremendous time today, actually. Great guests as ever. Wonderful comments from all of you. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp, although we were a bit late this morning, and we'll see you then.
Remember, despite all of the others out there, it's always the others. Don't be a plank.